love Anomaly, actually. He made my first video ever go viral. Had an interview with David Harris asking him to ask Trump the hard questions because he was close to the team. David knows all the things he is attacking Candace for. He sold out to hang at Mar-a-Lago. It's like a running theme. Like Mar-a-Lago's like, it's nice. Been there a lot of times. It's got good food. Not enough to sell out. I mean, the food's not like that good. I'm sorry, Trump. It's not.
Buddy, what's going on, everybody? Sorry about that rocky intro, but I wanted to talk about this clip of somebody asked a question on Candace Owens's question and answer, and mentioned me. And I want to talk about what they were talking about because it was an old interview of me and David Harris, and I want to bring up some clips from that interview a couple years ago because it's all coming full circle. My question to David, because I know he's tight with the president. I saw he recently met with Bibi Netanyahu, etc. I was like, David, it would be cool if some of you guys could ask some real journalistic questions to President Trump and people around him, because I believe that our movement is suffering because nobody really ever asks good questions. They constantly softball him. And, this is going to be a real full circle interview because all of the things that I said are now coming back true. And all of the things I think that people didn't question Trump on are starting to resurface in the second administration. So should be a great show. Appreciate you guys so much for being here. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. And let's get into it. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if everything sounds good. Give me a thumbs up on the video for the algorithm. Yes, sir.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube? What's going on Rumble? I appreciate you guys so much for being here. And I have noticed some backlash to my intro video in the comment section. People are saying, Anomaly, that song's terrible. I don't know if I agree, but at the same time, I threw it together pretty quickly. So I might come up with a new intro song. I have a lot of good songs that I could use, but they always copyright strike my own song. So it's kind of a difficult situation I'm dealing with. I can't even play my own music on my streams, or else I just use a clip of my own song. But I might craft a new intro. Let me know what you guys think in the comment sections about that. All right. I want to play this clip of Candace mentioning me real quick, and then I want to get into why I'm bringing it up. Of course, it's just nice and cool to be recognized. I'm always grateful for anybody that has anything nice to say about me. But really what I want to talk about is the David Harris bit, because somebody, and whoever Shauna, I think is the name, was the person who asked Candace this question. Thank you so much for bringing this question to Candace. I appreciate it. And it really inspired this entire live stream. So this just shows you too, what just a small thought can do. Somebody wrote a question to Candace. Candace spoke about me publicly. And then it really did inspire and bring this entire live stream together. So whoever you are out there, you're a real one. This is just as much you as it is me. So let's get into it. Here's the clip.
Shauna writes, Anomaly. I love Anomaly, actually. He made my first video ever go viral. Had an interview with David Harris asking him to ask Trump the hard questions because he was close to the team. David knows all the things he is attacking Candace for. He sold out to hang at Mar-a-Lago. It's like a running theme. Like Mar-a-Lago's like, it's nice. Been there a lot of times. It's got good food. Not enough to sell out. I mean, the food's not like that good. I'm sorry, Trump. It's not.
So at first she mentioned that I helped her first video blow up, which is, true to some extent. And I could talk about maybe that a different time, because that's quite the compliment and praise from Candace. So I appreciate you, Candace. But I really want to focus on the David Harris Jr. bit for this live stream. So let me play the first clip of the David Harris Jr. interview. So just to give you guys a quick briefing. I've met David before. He seems like a super nice guy. I tweeted something about him a couple years ago because I just kept seeing him I don't know, his posts were annoying me. And then I decided to reach out to him and just have him on my show rather than talk about him. I thought that was the honorable thing to do. So I brought him on the show. We talked about it. And here's a clip that really stands out, which is I asked David Harris, I said, I'm not trying to take it all out on you because, it's not your fault per se. However, people like you and you as well never asked Trump these questions. There's proof that Trump met with Bill Gates in 2018. There's basically proof that Trump hired or tried to hire Bill Gates. And then there's proof that he pushed Bill Gates's vaccine agenda through executive order in 2019. And I said, David, I don't need the attention. I don't need the credit. I just want somebody in his atmosphere to ask him this question, because if we don't hold our leaders accountable and figure out whether they're working with or for Bill Gates or not, history is going to repeat itself and we're going to keep getting screwed. So here's that clip. Take a watch. Here's one. Bill Gates came to him in 2018. We all pretend like we're, taking on Bill Gates and stuff. But what if the guy that everybody on the Republican Party likes is actually working with him? So Bill Gates in 2018 said Trump was super interested in a universal flu vaccine. 2018. And he told him, wouldn't you love to have the universal flu vaccine, something that got kicked off and energized by you? So Bill Gates was putting in his ear in 2018, you could revolutionize flu vaccines and you should look into it. And then, this is another great question that someone could ask. Are you friends with Bill Gates, Donald Trump? And did you try to hire Bill Gates, Donald Trump? Because Bill Gates claims that Trump offered him a job in his White House and he declined. Is it true? We'll never know because nobody asked Donald Trump these questions. And then as that universal flu vaccine thing that he's talking about, Donald Trump actually passed that through executive order, not with Congress, by himself. He modernized influenza vaccines, the same exact thing he was talking about with Bill Gates. He passed into office in 2019, and that's a pretty interesting executive order before the pandemic that talks about a flu vaccine task force and a lot of similar language to we saw in 2020. So these are just some questions I want somebody to ask because I don't have the interview, and I don't need it. I'm not looking for the attention, but I just really want our party to ask these questions because
you get the interview.
Yeah,
it's not about getting the attention. It's about asking questions. If you get the opportunity to interview him, you better do it, AJ. Come on now.
Of course I will, but I'm just saying I don't have those opportunities, and I don't think anybody seems to want to ask him super tough questions. So I guess these are just questions I'm throwing out in the atmosphere, not just at you, but at everybody.
Send me those questions, and I'm going to try to interview him again, and I'll ask every one of them.
Let me know. Give me a thumbs up if that video worked and you could hear it because, sorry, it was a little skippy on my part. So I asked David, I said, David, I know you've interviewed Trump multiple times. I don't need credit. I'm not looking for attention. I just want somebody to ask these questions. And he said, why don't, you should ask him if you get an interview with him. I'm like, David, they're not going to give me an interview because I would ask questions like these. I'm not eligible, I don't think, to get these opportunities. And I'm not playing the victim. Once again, I don't care. I don't want to be there. It's just, if I can't be there to ask the questions and they won't allow me to ask those questions, I would love if somebody would ask those questions and they don't even have to say that I told them to do it. And David said, if you send me those questions, if you give me those questions, I'll ask Trump the next time I talk to him. Because once again, before I move on to the next clip, I just want to show you in 2018, Bill Gates came to the press and he said, I got Trump super interested in a universal flu vaccine, right? That's what he told the press in 2018. He said, Trump's super interested in my universal flu vaccine idea and he really wants to do it. And then he said, Trump also offered me a science advisor White House position. And Bill Gates told the press he declined because he doesn't see the need for him to be, in the White House or have an official government position. Nobody has asked Trump that question. Is it true or not? I believe it is true, but not a single journalist that I've ever seen, not one. There's probably been like hundreds of Trump interviews, podcasts, right-wingers. Nobody seems to want to ask him if he offered Bill Gates a White House position, which is a pretty big deal. Doug Burgum got $100,000 from Bill Gates in North Dakota. And then under Doug Burgum's reign in North Dakota, Bill Gates bought a bunch of farmland and they had some sort of clause in North Dakota that said that elites are not supposed to just buy up all the farmland because they tried to protect the farmers. But somehow Bill Gates won that controversial lawsuit. And I don't think it stems very far from the fact that he bought the governor essentially by lobbying him before he got in. What happened to Doug Burgum, who is friends with Bill Gates and took money from Bill Gates? Doug Burgum's now in charge of national land under the Secretary of Interior. Donald Trump gave him a raise. So all of these influencers like David Harris Jr., they're like, Bill Gates sucks. Bill Gates sucks. That's what everybody says. Charlie Kirk. Nobody likes Bill Gates. No Trump supporter likes Bill Gates. I can't think of a single one. Yet none of them seem to want to ask Donald Trump the question, why are you hiring people who work for Bill Gates? Why are you hiring people who take money from Bill Gates? Did you give Bill Gates a White House position? And the reason that that Bill Gates was telling the press something that wasn't completely false is because in 2019, 6 or 5 months before the pandemic and the lockdown, Donald Trump passed an executive order for a universal flu vaccine that brought together almost every branch of government to establish a task force. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if Bill Gates told Donald Trump or told the press in 2018, Trump is super interested in a universal flu vaccine, and in 2019, Trump passes exactly what Bill Gates told the press through executive order, it's almost for sure that Trump is basically working with or for Bill Gates. Yet nobody wants to ask him the question. So that's why I said to David, David, you should ask the question. He goes, yeah, if you, if you give me those questions, then I will ask it. And let me just show you real quick. That's what somebody brought up. Thank you, Shauna, for bringing this up to Candace Owens. I'm going to play that clip again. Then I'm going to play another clip of David Harris Jr. for people who are just entering.
Shauna writes, Anomaly. I love Anomaly, actually. He made my first video ever go viral. Had an interview with David Harris asking him to ask Trump the hard questions because he was close to the team. David knows all the things he is attacking Candace for. He sold out to hang at Mar-a-Lago. That's like a running theme.
Right. So she noticed that because I guess she watches Candace and me, and she's like, Anomaly brought all that information. The entire debate was me bringing things that David Harris Jr. never questions Trump on, and him kind of just like playing this weird game. So I'm not really paying attention to David Harris Jr. I tuned him out a long time ago because my IQ is not 30. If you have the IQ of a banana, or perhaps like your parents or grandparents are watching David Harris Jr. But, I'm too intelligent to watch simpleton content like that. I don't know if he's attacking Candace. I guess he is, according to that person. And it's like she was claiming that David Harris Jr. is attacking Candace on topics that I brought up in the interview that we all know that David knows well about, but he's more interested in meeting with foreign leaders and never asking the tough questions. So here's another clip from that interview where I basically, went in a little bit and was like, if we question Democrats, right? If we question Lindsey Graham and Kevin McCarthy and we try to hold their feet to the fire metaphorically and just, use our power of citizenry to speak out against this stuff, I don't understand why people like David Harris do that for pretty much every politician under the sun and every Republican, except for Donald Trump. They make this like grandiose exception where when he does it, it's 5D chess. But when Lindsey Graham doesn't, it's not 5D chess, it's corruption. So listen to what I brought to his attention here. And this followed me and him kind of like having a bit of a yelling argument, or I was trying to not be interrupted. So take a listen.
He's putting Lindsey Graham on a stage. I understand what you're saying, but it's not like we're trying to hate Donald Trump into like a non-existence or anything. It's just like the reason you call out Kevin McCarthy is not because you hate Republicans, because you want to reform the party in the right direction. The reason you call out rhinos and even people you like sometimes is because you want them to know that you care about certain issues. So with Donald Trump, why not push back against all his lies and shilling for big pharma and terrible hires? Why play this game like it's so amazing and it's the art of the deal? Isn't that just going to incentivize Donald Trump to just keep making the same mistakes? I feel like that's the reason he keeps doing it, is because everybody would rather just kind of like hang out at Mar-a-Lago than actually push back against his lies. Like, why not do the same thing we do for McCarthy and Lindsey Graham when Trump's on stage with Lindsey Graham? It's not like this guy's not close to Trump. He's going to be speaking and hosted by Trump in a few weeks.
Well, I think he's already a member of Congress as well, right? So he's already has a stage.
But he doesn't. Trump doesn't put Adam Schiff on a stage. Why is he parading around with Lindsey Graham?
Who would put Adam Schiff on a stage?
Who would put Lindsey Graham on a stage? Lindsey Graham is not really that much better.
Again, you're trying to get into, I think, specifics and answers to things that are in a level that neither you and I are in. We're not in Congress. We're not in Congress. We're not in Congress.
So, I think I'm not trying to be rude, but really dumb people fall for the trick that David was doing there. And I think intelligent and honest people see through it. So my point to him was, Donald, this was years ago, and Trump is still endorsing Lindsey Graham, by the way, and trying to kick Thomas Massie out of Congress. Thomas Massie's the modern day Ron Paul. Trump's trying to kick him out. Lindsey Graham is the modern day Mitch McConnell, and Trump is endorsing him and on stage with him. And I said to David years ago, I said, Trump is doing so many weird things. And I feel like the reason he keeps doing them is because nobody around him ever calls him out. And I feel like he's incentivized to never stop because people like David Harris just don't seem that interested in calling it out. And his logic is so fake. He's such a phony. He goes, I go, why is he putting Lindsey Graham on a stage? Like, it would be weird if he put Adam Schiff on a stage. And then David said, well, who would put Adam Schiff on a stage? And I said, who would put Lindsey Graham on a stage? Lindsey Graham is the Republican equivalent to Adam Schiff. They're both establishment. They're both fake opposition. They're both frauds. And then he goes, well, we're not in Congress, so, we shouldn't really weigh in on that. Which, if like your IQ, I'm not trying to, I should probably be less condescending about this, but it's too late. I got to be how I talk. You have to be an idiot to fall for that, because David Harris Jr., if you follow his social media, he constantly criticizes members of Congress. He constantly criticizes politicians. He constantly calls out Democrats. In fact, that's how David Harris Jr. made a living. That's how David Harris Jr. made this career. He criticized members of Congress. He criticized members of government. He called out corrupt members of politics. That's literally like why he has a platform in the first place. Yet when it comes to Donald Trump getting involved and Lindsey Graham, now all of a sudden, I'm David Harris Jr. and I'm not in Congress, so I don't really want to speak on Congress. Bro, what are you talking about? Do you follow David Harris on social media? Has he ever said before, I'm not in politics, so I don't want to talk about politicians. I'm not in Congress, so I'm not going to talk about congressmen. I don't want to weigh in on why Trump has a corrupt rhino on the stage because I'm not in Congress. It makes me unqualified to talk about Congress. Your entire career and the entire reason people follow you is because you started talking about members of Congress and corrupt people. And then later in the interview, he tried to say, it's because he's a Christian and he doesn't like to criticize. It's like, so you're not that Christian when it comes to criticizing Democrats. You don't use Christianity as a shield when it comes to criticize literally every member of the Republican Party besides Donald Trump. Yet when it comes to Donald Trump, now all of a sudden Jesus comes down and tells you, you know what? Be a Christian and don't talk about Congress. Don't weigh in on congressmen because you're not on Congress. He's such a fraud. So, I don't know if he's attacking Candace Owens, but I find it really weird that he's meeting with the foreign prime minister and then he's going to attack Candace Owens, who calls out stuff that he'll never call out. I just wanted to bring that video up and show people that, I brought all these pieces of evidence that Donald Trump is not only working with Bill Gates, but in 2019, he passed Bill Gates's vaccine executive order, or the idea that Bill Gates gave him through executive order before the pandemic. And nobody in the Trump atmosphere seems that interested in getting into it. This is why I say that fake opposition Republicans are just as bad as Democrats, because Democrats are the obvious, you could say enemy. I try to use like nicer words, but let's just use the word. Democrats are the obvious enemy. Democrats are the obvious opposition. Democrats are anti-American. They leave the borders open. They have stupid policies. They're doing weird stuff in the schools. Like, Democrats are the obvious. We're not your friend. We don't represent you. We're not on your side, right? That's obvious. It's not that hard. A rock could talk about that, like do the stuff that Charlie Kirk and David Harris Jr. do. Cool. We get it. But what's even worse is somebody that is on your side essentially as a poser, and they're just there to make sure that your side really never does anything right. So it's like if you have all these Republican influencers and every week during the pandemic, they say, Fauci sucks, Bill Gates sucks, Fauci's evil, Bill Gates is evil, Fauci's destroying our country, Bill Gates is destroying our country. Yet when Trump gives Fauci an award, they won't report on it. And when Trump does the bidding of Bill Gates, literally takes meetings with him, offers him a White House position, and then passes an executive order in 2019, 6 months before the pandemic, all of a sudden they're not interested in journalism about Bill Gates because Bill Gates is working for the person that they suck up to make money and get invited to social events. So they're just as bad, if not worse, than Democrats, because they're essentially just there to help you lose. They're just there to block anybody else from getting through that's going to help you. And then they have the nerve to talk about Candace Owens like she's the problem when they're the problem, and they hate the fact that she's not as controlled as they are. It's disgusting what they're doing. So now that we know all this stuff, it's like, people came to the conclusion, because of fake influencers brainwashing them like this guy, they came to the conclusion that Donald Trump just got tricked. Donald Trump just made a mistake. Donald Trump is like this innocent victim who didn't really mean to do what he's doing. But if you really do the research, you'll find out this was long orchestrated. I'm not saying necessarily the lockdown, but when it comes to the vaccine task force and this new modernized vaccine, Bill Gates told Trump about it in 2018. Trump passed it through executive order in 2019, and Ivanka Trump tweeted that Trump was working on the Moderna vaccine even before the pandemic or the lockdown started. So all of this stuff was premeditated to some extent. It's factual now. I don't think you get censored for talking about it on social media like I did for 4 years when I tried to bring it up to people, but it's like literally scientific fact and provable through interviews, articles, tweets that a lot of this stuff predated the pandemic. Yet no Republican influencer seems that interested in bringing it up. And now I want to show you something real quick. I guess looks like I forgot to upload it, but Trump, the FDA is now working on some sort of like fast-tracked bird flu vaccine that has I don't know the exact terminology behind it. I wish I had the article. I think I saved it, but I forgot to essentially upload it here. And it's like everybody now, all the influencers are like, whoa, I'm against the FDA doing this fast-tracked mRNA bird flu vaccine. They're going to keep doing what they're doing on loop until you figure out why they're doing it. If you just say, he made a mistake, he didn't mean to do what he did, and then Trump's on television saying, the vaccine saved 100 million lives. I'm the father of the vaccine. I rushed the FDA to get it out. And then people like David Harris Jr. are like, it's Bill Gates, it's Fauci. He gave Fauci an award. He worked with Bill Gates. A lot of this vaccine stuff and the executive orders were premeditated to the pandemic, and there's executive orders to prove it. And the name of what the executive order is identically matches what Bill Gates told him about in 2018. And he offered Bill Gates a White House position. And all these frauds and all these cowards, they just don't want to ask Donald Trump about it because they might lose access to their social circles. They're too busy meeting with foreign leaders. What are you talking about foreign leaders with? Are you asking why the IHRA, anti-Semitism, hate speech laws are being passed into America, or are you not really concerned with that? Let me show you something real quick that's happening. Actually, I'm going to read this. I made a statement on Twitter to explain why Donald Trump's administration lost my favor. I really enjoyed, I think, the first week or two of his administration. You know, he was getting a lot of favorable press from me. I like to compliment people when they do the right thing and do journalism when they do the wrong thing. And I do want to say this before I read this statement real quick. And I'm reading it because it's well thought out, and I spent 5-10 minutes typing it, so I feel like it articulates what I mean. But most people on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, I think they appreciate what I do, even on Facebook. But a lot of people on Facebook, like over 50, they get mad at me because they don't understand what I'm doing, and they got tricked by what other people are doing. 95% of people that pretend to be journalists or truth tellers or news analysts or, you know, whatever they're pretending to do, they're not. They're professional sports fans. So when people say, like, why are you so critical? Why are you criticizing? I'm not a critic. I'm not a negative person. I'm not a negative Nancy. I'm an optimistic person. I'm a nice person. I'm friendly. I'm grateful. But here's the thing. My job is news analysis. I'm analyzing the news. I'm not a professional operative. I'm not a professional politician. I'm not trying to run as a Republican. I'm not trying to hang out at Mar-a-Lago and get invited places and hang out with the donors and, you know, meet in secret meetings with foreign leaders. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to do journalism for the American people. So if I want to be a sports fan, I'll just quit and watch sports. Or if I want to be a fan of politicians, I'll just do it in my private life. But as long as I'm here, I say, if you look at my channels, it says news analysis. That's what I'm doing. I'm analyzing you the news, and I'm telling you the truth about what it is. I'm not doing Republican propaganda. I'm not doing pro-Trump propaganda. 95% of influencers are doing propaganda. They're not giving you the facts, and they're not giving you the truth. People like Charlie Kirk, he knows better. He's an honest guy deep down in his heart, but he's too submissive to the donor class. Charlie Kirk runs organizations where he receives millions and tens of millions of dollars from donors, just like politicians do. So Charlie Kirk has to act like a politician. I don't have to do that. I'm not relying on them. My business model's not relying on them. And I would never allow my business model to be relying on them because I'm not that type of person. But people get it misconstrued because they're like, I'm mad at what you're saying because it disagrees with 95% of what I'm intaking. You're intaking pure one-sided propaganda, but I want people to understand that this is not to help you. The reason we just keep getting bopped in a loop, it's like, oh, we're going to win. Oh, no, we're in a lockdown. Oh, we're fighting the socialists. Oh, wait, Donald Trump just printed trillions of dollars. Oh, now he's yelling at Thomas Massey. Now he's selling a vaccine. Now he's pushing hate speech laws in America. It's not random. He's getting hundreds of millions of dollars from mega donors who care more about a foreign country than America. So the mega donors who are giving Trump and the GOP hundreds of millions of dollars in order to get them to pass laws favorable to that foreign country. And one of the laws that they're getting passed in America and lobbying Trump to pass says that you can't say they have dual loyalty. So donors with dual loyalty that care more about a foreign nation, and Trump has admitted it on stage, they're like giving Trump money, and then Trump's selling out the United States and our Constitution and our First Amendment and trying to make it illegal to say the truth, which is that they have dual loyalty to a different country. That's why they want a hate speech law in America against our First Amendment, to say that they're not doing it. It's ridiculous. And, everybody who calls it out gets smeared by these gatekeepers and idiots who are just the most anti-American frauds ever. And he's welcome to come back on the podcast and have a debate if he wants. Let me read my statement of why Trump's administration lost favor and why I'm not going to stop talking about it. Because if we lose the First Amendment, we're going to lose everything. And instead of, I just want to say this real quick. Sorry, this is long-winded, but it's necessary. Most Republicans literally just lie to you, make sure that the wrong thing happens. And then when the wrong thing happens, they fundraise off it. And they're like, I can't believe this. Amy Coney Barrett's another perfect scenario. I knew that Amy Coney Barrett was a fraud before she got nominated. So did Robert Barnes and a few others. We were talking about it and everyone was getting mad at us. Like, shut up, you're a Democrat. Shut up. Amy Coney Barrett's awesome. The left hates Amy Coney Barrett. I did my research. I'm a news analyst. I'm a journalist. I'm a researcher. I found out she was pro-lockdown. I was like, why would you hire a pro-lockdown judge in the middle of a lockdown, let alone ever? Donald Trump did that. And then 3 years later, everyone's like, oh, Amy Coney Barrett tricked us. And, you know, she changed. She didn't change. Donald Trump picked the wrong person. I said it beforehand. And all the influencers that made thousands of dollars promoting Amy Coney Barrett, then they make thousands of dollars saying that she sucks. It's like this constant trauma cycle. It's the same thing the Democrats do. They lie to their audience. They scare them. They freak them out, and then they fundraise off of their captivity. It's the same thing these Zionist Republicans do and these operative sellout Republicans do. It's like they allow the bad things to happen to you. They basically make them happen. Then when they happen, they're like, oh my gosh, it's just the left. And it's like, it's you too. You're the fake opposition, keeping everybody in this cage, making sure that they never figure out what's really going on. They're just as bad, if not worse, than Democrats. It's the same thing that Malcolm X said to Black people about liberals and conservatives. He said, Republicans don't even pretend to care that much about what you're doing. It's the Democrats who are worse, because the Democrats are the fake opposition. The Democrats are the kind that are going to act like they're your best friend and then stab you in the back. That's what Malcolm X told Black people. To me, that's the same thing that the Republicans are doing, because the left are like Bolsheviks. They're the obvious opposition to you. They're the obvious open borders. They don't care about you. Everything they say is wrong. They're doing weird stuff to the schools. They're terrible. They print too much money. Like, Democrats are the obvious opposition to conservatives. Republicans are what Malcolm X told Democrats Black people are to conservative people. Republican Zionists are the fake opposition. They're the ones that are like, look how bad the left is. And you're like, yeah, no, the left is horrible. But then they're leading you to the same destination because they're selling out your First Amendment. You know, people like Trump, I'm not saying this has to do with his Zionist donors, because I don't think it does. But, you know, Donald Trump sold the vaccine. Donald Trump locked the country down. Donald Trump printed trillions of dollars. And people are like, oh, he's going to save America with the tariffs. Maybe. I hope so. I hope he has good intentions with the tariffs, and I'm wishing him well. But the truth is, if Donald Trump didn't sign the CARES Act and print trillions of dollars, you would be richer now. Donald Trump could have helped and saved America by not signing the Communist Socialist CARES Act and trying to kick Thomas Massie out of the party. It's like he prints trillions of dollars and then he's convincing you that tariffs are going to fix the economy. Just stop printing trillions of dollars like a psychopath. He's going to raise the budget, the military budget as well. He's at a deficit also. You know, he's running up the debt just like the Democrats are. It's like they give you these false solutions instead of just doing the obvious answer. But let me explain to you why Trump's administration lost favor with me. So this is what I wrote, and this is what I mean. I said, here's the exact moment the Trump administration lost favor with me this term and why. They're using nearly every branch of government, including the DHS and HHS, to police anti-Semitism based off of the unconstitutional and insane IHRA hate speech laws that they've been passing into legislation since 2019. It's really just a sorry attempt to make it nearly impossible for people in America to be a critic of the U.S. foreign policy. It's crazy enough that we have to give hundreds of billions of dollars in foreign aid to fund foreign wars that are leaving tens of thousands of dead. It's literally not even possible for us to vote our way out of this at the current moment. You can't vote your way out of it. Doesn't matter which party you vote for. It's even more of a slap in the face to have an administration weaponizing every branch of government to intimidate and crack down on the dissidents who disagree. Why does our country have blasphemy laws designed to make one race, one religion, and one foreign country a special class? Are we a conquered country? Are we a colony? This is beyond anti-American. This administration is selling its soul, our Constitution, and our sacred First Amendment because he gets paid hundreds of millions of dollars by donors who prioritize a foreign country over America. And they want the IHRA speech laws in place, which claim that it's hate speech to talk about what they're doing. I had very little faith in Trump, didn't trust him, but was hoping for the best. Worth a dice roll since Biden is a total anti-American clown and hires people who leave the border open. But Trump is even worse than expected. He's selling out our country, pushing the neocon agenda, and policing hate speech with every branch of government. Any news pundit that doesn't talk about this is either a phony, a coward, a puppet, or has so much dual loyalty that they are okay with it, so they purposely ignore it like everyone doesn't notice. And I want to tell something to people that are getting brainwashed by Fox News-esque and Charlie Kirk-style propaganda, where they think that Trump is just trying to stop, terrorists from entering the country. It's like, yeah, I would agree with that. I don't like terrorists. I don't want people who hate America in America, right? If you believe Fox News, if you believe Zionist media, you're like, no, this is great what Trump's doing. He's stopping everybody who hates America from entering America and becoming a citizen. If I were so dumb that I believed what they were saying and I believed all the talking points, like they always use the same three examples, like this person was blocking a school. It's like, okay, if they're committing a crime, charge them with a crime. I don't care. If they're blocking people from going to class, if they're taking over classrooms, that's not activism. If they don't have a permit, that's a crime. You don't need special hate speech laws that say totally other stuff in order to prosecute that crime. But the truth is, a lot of the people that Trump is deporting, they're admitting in memos and they're admitting to the press, they don't have proof of a crime. Those are just the talking points that they're telling you on the media. What they do have proof is that these people have criticized Israel. And I want to show you this real quick, what they're doing, and tell you why Trump is basically making it impossible for the future generation of foreign Rand Pauls and Thomas Masseys to enter America. Under Trump's new policy, Ron Paul, if he were a foreigner, even though he's one of the most pro-America people out there, he would not be able to get a green card because they'd scan his social media and call him an anti-Semite. Thomas Massey would not be able to get a green card because they would scan what he said and they would call him an anti-Semite because he's not even critical of Israel. He's just a libertarian and he believes that we shouldn't be giving them foreign aid. And he doesn't believe in the hate speech laws. They've passed hate speech laws through legislation. Every single member of Congress voted yes on it because they were afraid of like the condemnation bill or whatever. Thomas Massey's the only dissident in the entire Republican Party. That's why they hate him. But in general, this would allow a foreign Mitch McConnell to enter. This would allow a foreign Elise Stefanik to enter. This would allow a foreign Adam Schiff to enter. He's rigging America against America. The greatest patriots of our time would not be allowed to get a green card under Trump's new speech policing for immigrants. And people haven't put this together because there's so much propaganda out there. Let's look. It's right on the government website, so I don't even have to look at the news. It's on the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website. It says DHS to begin screening aliens' social media activity for anti-Semitism. And it says that they are going to look at anti-Semitic activity on social media as grounds for denying immigration benefit requests. And they said this will immediately affect aliens applying for lawful permanent resident status, foreign students, and aliens affiliated with educational institutions linked to anti-Semitic activity. So it's not a theory that I have. It's a fact. It's a government policy now. They're going to look at every incoming person or every person who's here legally without a green card or a citizenship that's applying for it or trying to get to America. And they're going to look for anti-Semitic activity on social media. If they find any anti-Semitic activity on social media, they're going to deny the person a green card. You might say, well, that's a good thing. Like, we don't want anti-Semites in America. And I agree. It's like, I don't want hateful people in America. Why would I? But it only makes sense if you think the word anti-Semitic thinks what you think it means. If you know what it means, if you've read the definition, it's on the State Department website. You could find it everywhere. It's called the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. It's been passed into Canada. It's been passed into Australia. It's been passed into Germany, France, UK. If you could think of a country that's in our alliance of the West and you look it up, the chances are they've already adopted the IHRA anti-Semitism law. That should freak you out a little bit, that the entire globe or the entire alliance of the West, nearly every single country, nearly every single state in the United States of America has passed the same definition. They'll frame it as right versus left or Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer supports the definition. Donald Trump supports the definition. Kathy Hochul supports the definition. Governor Kemp supports the definition. Ron DeSantis supports the definition. Sarah Huckabee Sanders supports the definition. Canada supports it. San Paulo supports it. France, Germany. The entire West is passing the same hate speech law. You have these frauds and utter liars like the Charlie Kirks of the world who I know he knows this stuff, but he's too controlled by donors to ever want to talk about it that much. He just has to weigh in on it every couple of years and then push the propaganda for the elites. But in general, it's like, how often do you see people like David Harris Jr., Charlie Kirk, DC Drano, all these type of people, how often do they mock, Europe and Canada and Australia for having hate speech laws? I don't know, like all the time, right? They're like, how could they pass hate speech laws? How are they policing hate speech? How are they monitoring social media posts for hate speech? And then they just don't really want to talk that much about the IHRA anti-Semitism laws because sadly, whether they're Catholic, Christian, or ethnic, have a bias in that situation or religious bias of other sorts, people who are Zionists, this is the issue that people have. It's not that they just support Israel or like Israel. It's just that it's really hard to find somebody that's ultra Zionist that doesn't prioritize everything over the United States of America. It's like, yeah, I'm for the First Amendment except for this. I'm for America except for this. I'm against foreign aid except for this. It's like they have no consistency. They're willing to sell out the First Amendment for their foreign agenda, which is why people have noticed it. And then when you notice it, they just call you anti-Semitic. So under those new social media policing for anti-Semitism, because the real definition of anti-Semitism is you can't say this ethnicity, it dominates politics or banking or media or controls societal institutions. So if you say George Soros funds politicians, that's anti-Semitism. If you say Miriam Adelson's paying Trump, that's anti-Semitism. If you say Mark Zuckerberg is dominating social media, that's anti-Semitism. Like, name a talking point that Republicans have, and it'll be considered anti-Semitism. It'll protect Zelensky of Ukraine because of his ethnicity, and the donor that elevated Zelensky because of his ethnicity. It'll protect the entire state of Israel from any sort of comparisons. In fact, there's a politician in Argentina right now that's being charged under the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws because she said that the Israel government is acting like Nazis. And that's specifically one of the hate speech laws. It says you can't compare that government to Nazis. I don't compare them to Nazis because I don't think that they're Nazis. I think people use the term Nazi way too liberally. Like everyone's a Nazi according to everybody online. It's Elon Musk, it's the left, it's the right. It's like everybody's that. I don't use that terminology. I just speak more honestly. I'm not like falsely accusing people. But here's the weird part about Argentina and the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws. You could say that Elon's a Nazi. You could say that Mali's a Nazi. You could say, I mean, maybe not because he's Jewish. Maybe they'll call you an anti-Semite for that. I'm not really sure. But in general, one of the laws specifically says you can't say that country acts that way. So you could say that about any country and it's legal. But in Argentina, it's a literal chargeable crime now. There's only one country in Argentina that you can't say that about. But then you also can't say that country controls Argentina. So it's like if I live in a country, let's just say it was Saudi Arabia, right? Let's just say if I said Saudi Arabia controls America and I got charged with a crime in Argentina, and then I'm like, wait, does Saudi Arabia control our country if I can't even talk about them? And then they're like, we're charging you with that too. Why? Well, you can't say they control your country. It's obvious that they do. You're just making the truth hate speech. So that's what one of the hate speech definition says. It also says that you can't say that anybody has dual loyalty to America of that ethnicity or religion. If you say Ben Shapiro has dual loyalty to Israel, that's anti-Semitism under the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws. And in America, people need to understand, in 2019, I started talking about this, right? And I'll tell you that, and I'm not complaining or playing the victim, but, and God bless Candace. Thank you for giving me a shout out. I'm just being honest. I'm being straightforward. And this is no disrespect to her because I think her career has been extraordinary. And I think that she's very honorable and being very honest right now. But it's like, I don't think they would have let Candace Owens in those positions if she would have had the opinion she had now. When you look at her on PragerU, she was pushing their narrative. When she got to Daily Wire, I think they saw her and were like, okay, she's black, she's Republican, but she's also, on our side of this foreign policy. The second Candace Owens started after the war kind of questioning Israel more and started to look into that stuff, they cut her off. So once again, I'm not playing the victim and I don't care because everybody has their own path. And I think Candace is a superstar. I got blacklisted in 2019 because I noticed this. I could have pretended like I didn't notice it like everybody else does. I could have been like, yeah, I don't notice that they're selling out our First Amendment. If I would have done that, you guys don't think I would have been hired by these media corporations and had all of these gigs that all these other people have? Like, Candace is a superstar. Whether you like Candace or not, she's a star, right? She's powerful. She's successful. She was always going to be big. It doesn't matter who did what for her. All these other people, like they're a bunch of morons. Like the people that are getting hired by these organizations, they're not stars. They'll hire anybody that pushes their narrative. So it's like, I was getting all these opportunities, invited to places. The second I learned about the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws in 2019, of course, I was just 5-6 years ahead. I got blacklisted from everything, right? They started calling me far right, whatever. And I realized that I would just have to work independently, which is fine. It's whatever. With that being said, there's a reason that nobody talks about this. Some people are afraid. I know people at media organizations, they know that they'll lose their job if they talk about this. They know that, if they need their job to feed their family and they're working at one of the big organizations or, committees or, anything in Republican media or politics, they know that what I'm saying is a hard road. Do you want to take the easy road and get invited places and be part of the team? Or do you want to say what I'm saying, say the truth, stand up for the First Amendment, and potentially lose everything? Most people don't talk about it out of fear. Other people don't talk about it because they're in on it. You know what I'm saying? There was a massive cover up in 2019 from Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro to wrangle and sheep herd a bunch of conservatives away from that narrative, using straw mans and picking out people and being like, oh, it's him versus us. They did that with Fuentes to make people think like, oh, this isn't happening because it's just bad guy versus good guy. And it's like, dude, it's not. And this is where people always get tricked. Regardless of what he says or Ben Shapiro says or Charlie Kirk says, the truth is the truth. Like, holding someone up and being like, he's bad, so I must be good. It's offensive to my intellect for Charlie and Ben to have done that in 2019. They're like, if you're on his side, you're with them. I'm not picking a side. I'm just reporting the facts. And if reporting the facts makes you throw me out of your side, then you're a gatekeeper. You're a liar. You're a fraud. So they've been covering this up for 5 years. Another reason people didn't talk about it in 2019 is they told me, Anomaly, it doesn't really matter. We still have the First Amendment. They're passing these anti-Semitism hate speech laws, like sneaking them into legislation, but they're not really using them, so it's not a big deal. And here's what I always tell everybody in anything. If they pass legislation, they're going to use it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they haven't used it yet, but it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. Do you want to start covering it now, or do you want to wait till it's too late? Everybody loves waiting till it's too late and then complaining about it. I'm more of like, let's try to get ahead of this. Like, if they pass executive orders for flu vaccines, they're going to use it. If they pass executive orders for something and you read the executive order, they're not just randomly like, let me write this down. They already have the plan that they want to do, and now they're passing the laws to allow them to do it. So because we have the First Amendment, because we're not Australia and because we're not Argentina, they can't just charge American citizens with a crime for breaking the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws. But what they can do is try to use every loophole in the book to enforce it and work around the First Amendment. First thing they did was Ron DeSantis in Florida, he passed a littering bill. So if you hand out Republican propaganda, it's fine. You can hand out Democrat propaganda. You can hand out communist like you could hand out flyers for anything. Like, you could literally leave Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto on somebody's car, and there's not really, it's like a littering crime at best, right? Ron DeSantis used the IHRA anti-Semitism laws to hype up littering charges for one race, one religion, one country, and the global definition of anti-Semitism. So now if you push anti-Semitic propaganda, you will be thrown in prison and potentially charged with an even bigger crime. So it's like, he can't arrest people for speaking, but he can hype up a littering charge. And I just say, okay, but are you going to hype up like every littering charge? The truth is, he's not. He once advocated, I watched an interview and he said, if you move to Florida, and a Democrat moved to Florida, feel free to give them a flyer, leave a flyer on their car that says why Florida is better for being Republican. Don't turn Florida into a Democrat state. I agree with that. Ethically, that's Republican propaganda, essentially, but I agree with it. I agree with that propaganda because it's true. You shouldn't turn Florida into a Democrat state. But that's littering. That's the same type of littering charge. It's just an agenda that Ron DeSantis agrees with. So it's like, my issue is the slippery slope and the hypocrisy on that topic. And then this administration, Donald Trump has been enforcing the IHRA anti-Semitism laws even further. He's now using it against schools. He's basically using it as a threat. He told Columbia and a lot of these Ivy League schools, you have to adopt the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws. Like, he's forcing them to adopt these hate speech laws. And so many people think he's doing it for Republicans and conservatives. And it's like, he's not forcing them to adopt anti-Christian hate speech laws. He's not forcing, and I don't want him to. I'm just saying he's doing it for Israel. He's doing it for his donors. This has nothing to do with fighting the left. This has everything to do with turning America into Australia and Canada with these hate speech laws. He can't enforce it on citizens yet, but they're going to probably spy on citizens. They're probably going to monitor social media of citizens. And to be fair, they're also going to, well, actually not to be fair, just to be accurate, when I got invited to a Turning Point event, this was a couple years ago, I wanted to go check it out, network. You know, I'm a friendly guy. I like going to events too. You know, they basically said, yeah, we'll give you a pass to TPUSA, like a free pass or whatever. And they said, you know, we're happy to have you. Then I got a phone call. I forget who it was by, and I don't really care. But whoever my connect was at TPUSA at the time, and they said, hey, Anomaly, sorry, we have to get rid of your invitation to Turning Point. And I was like, why? They're like, you're not allowed to come, essentially. I was like, why? They're like, well, we went through your tweets. So they're monitoring my social media as well, my awesome social media that's gotten me this far. So I said, okay, what tweets do you have a problem with? Why are you disinviting me to Turning Point? And they said, well, you tweeted that Charlie Kirk's covering up the IHRA speech laws, or you tweeted that Turning Point's a fake organization because they're covering for the hate speech laws. So, you know, they were basically applying the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws to me and trying to disinvite me from Turning Point. And I was like, everything I said is true, though. I'm not just randomly hating on Turning Point. I'm saying your entire organization pretends to stand up for free speech, but you guys are actively covering for these hate speech laws. They disinvited me. And then they called me back an hour later and they said that somebody vouched for me and that I could actually come. I think, you know, it was Jack Pasabic. They said that he liked me or he allowed me to come. You know, like we talked to Jack and he said, you're good. And I was like, okay, that was a little weird. But I told him, I was like, dude, if you don't invite me, if you take away my invitation to Turning Point, I'm just going to go with a bullhorn and a camera and I'm just going to stand outside and tell everybody that I'm not invited. Meanwhile, when I'm waiting in the media line or whatever, I'm talking to like photographers for like Reuters and all these like mainstream liberal organizations. And I'm laughing to myself. I mean, these were just the photo guys, so they were pretty chill. I don't think they're like propagandists, but you know, I just like to chat with everybody. Even if they were like far left wing, it would be interesting just to have a normal conversation and see what they're about. But anyway, I'm waiting for my pass and I'm talking to all these guys and I'm laughing in my head. I'm like, I bet you that Charlie Kirk allows left-wing organizations an easier time of getting into Turning Point than he does people that call out the fact that he's covering up the speech laws for Israel. So I've already seen them use it against me. I guess because somebody liked me there, they allowed me in, but it's like they're already using this in so many ways against citizens. Also, the point that I'm trying to make that really gets to the point is if Ron Paul was applying for a green card, he would get denied because he breaks the IHRA speech laws. If Thomas Massey were applying, he would get denied because he breaks the laws. Mitch McConnell would be let in. Elise Stefanik would be let in. John McCain would be let in. Meghan McCain would be let in. Lindsey Graham would be. So Trump's actually rigging the immigration process against our greatest patriots because our greatest patriots at some point will be called anti-Semitic for speaking the truth about anything because everything's anti-Semitic nowadays. Let me show you an example because some people think I'm exaggerating and they're like, Ron Paul is a chill guy, right? Ron Paul wouldn't hurt a fly. Not only, no offense, he's like the least scary guy I've ever seen in my life. Like if it was me and Ron Paul in a dark alleyway, even if he were 30 years old in the best shape of his life, I wouldn't be afraid. He's small. He's a puny guy. And I'm not being rude. Ron Paul's like, and I'm not going to say idol, but he's a heroic figure to me in the sense of he's one of the most honorable people in congressional history, but he's not scary at all. I want to show you what Ben Shapiro was saying about Ron Paul when he was standing on a stage. Ben Shapiro was lying and exaggerating, saying that Ron Paul wanted to physically hurt Ben Shapiro's ethnicity and Ben Shapiro's religion because he was holding a pen and a pencil in his hand. You think I'm joking? I'm going to substitute Ben Shapiro's ethnicity and religion with the word blank because I don't want to get censored online because Ben Shapiro's exaggerations and fantasies are so twisted and demonic that, you know, I don't even want to read them out loud because he's making up physical threats from Ron Paul that never existed. So I'm going to read them, but I'm just going to say blank instead of Ben's ethnicity because I don't want to get censored online due to Ben Shapiro's psychotic mentality. So here's what he was saying. He tweeted when Ron Paul was running for office, he said, Ron Paul is manifestly insane As in previous debates, he is now gripping the pen as he would the neck of blank, Ben's ethnicity. So he said, Ron Paul's pen reminds him of him hurting people of my type. So that's the lie that Ben was telling about Ron Paul. He also said Gingrich almost drops his pen. Ron Paul grabs it and rings it like the neck of a blank. So Ben's also exaggerating here. And then he said Congressman Paul is gripping the podium like it's a blank's neck. So everything that Ron Paul did, Ben Shapiro was lying and exaggerating, saying that he was trying to hurt Ben's ethnicity. So it's like Ron Paul, the scrawniest, most puny person probably to ever run for office. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying he's like the least threatening person I've ever seen in my life. He holds the podium and Ben Shapiro says, oh my gosh, he's holding it like my neck. And you're like, no, he's not doing that at all. He holds his pen and Ben Shapiro goes, oh my God, he's holding the pen like my neck. And you're like, he's also not doing that. That's not what Ron Paul is doing at all. He's literally just standing there saying that we need to end the wars and we need to stop fighting wars. But that's what Ben Shapiro said. So now Ben Shapiro has special hate speech laws for his ethnicity, his religion, and the country that he likes. And now you can't say Ben Shapiro has dual loyalty, even though he does. You know, you can't say Ben Shapiro exaggerates that much because that might be anti-Semitism. Because, of course, Ben Shapiro's group, it's hate speech now to say that they exaggerate because, of course, they never would, even though Ben constantly exaggerates all the time. But it's like this is the level that they'll go. So now if Ron Paul was a foreigner and he said, listen, I love America, I love the Constitution, and I love the First Amendment so much that I don't believe that the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech law should be passed into America. The DHS under DHS Barbie, Kristi Noem, she's a total fraud as well. She would look at that and be like, you know what? He's anti-Semitic. We can't let him in because he broke the anti-Semitism laws. Thomas Massey. If you listen to Thomas Massey speak, if you read press, first of all, if you read press about Thomas Massey, you'll think he's the worst person in the world. He's an anti-Semite. He's the most anti-Semite. Have you ever listened to Thomas Massey speak? He never even mentioned, I've never once heard him mention Jewish people at all. He only talks about Israel in the context of United States foreign policy, funding them and fighting wars on their behalf. He's the nicest guy. Thomas Massey is one of the nicest guys in Congress. He's one of the most honorable guys in Congress, yet the press makes him seem like a monster. And because of the press that he's gotten, Thomas Massey would not be able to get a citizenship. So now Trump is rigging the DHS to allow the Lindsey Grahams, the Mitch McConnells, the Elise Stefanik's, the Romneys, the establishment politicians would be let in. And all the people that like America more than them will not be allowed to get citizenship. Donald Trump is ruining the United States of America. He's going to basically make it illegal in America to some extent to criticize a foreign nation. He can't do it to citizens right now. He wants to, but he can't because we have the First Amendment. So he's finding every loophole. Okay, I can't charge people with a crime for speaking, but I could charge them with a crime for passing out flyers, but I could prevent anybody like that from coming into the country. I could prevent the Ron Pauls and the Thomas Masseys from coming in and flood our country with Mitch McConnells and Lindsey Grahams. I could do that so the future generation, like that's what he's doing. And eventually he's going to find a loophole. They're going to use what Ben's doing and basically try to say that words create physical situations, which is what the left does with the words racism and xenophobia. They say, if you want the border closed, that means you hate Mexicans. No, it doesn't. If you think that this, ethnic group is committing crimes, you're racist. It's like, well, that's what the stats say. I'm not saying everyone does, but it's like statistically, there's stats there to back up patterns. I'm not, it's like, but now that's racist, right? And it's the same thing with anti-Semitism. If you disagree with Israel, you're an anti-Semite. Here's the thing. I could sit here and say, I'm pro-Israel. I love Israelis. I think they have a right to exist. God bless them. God bless their families. I know a lot of great Israelis. I just disagree with them killing so many, medics, journalists, and civilians, but I like them. I think they have the right to exist, and I wish them well. Even that would be anti-Semitism because you have to basically like submit to their entire foreign policy and be like, it's totally cool if they do that. And that's now a threshold that I don't even need for my own government. I could say George Bush was wrong. I could say the war in Iraq was a lie. I could say our foreign policy sucks. I could say it's bad when we kill civilians, but I can't say that about a foreign country in America. And it's the same speech laws that they're charging people with in Germany. It's the same speech laws that they're charging people with in Australia and Argentina. It's a global speech law for one race, one religion, and one foreign country that Donald Trump is beyond complicit for. So this is why I talk about this so much. And I'm really not going to stop, because it's like, if we can't protect the First Amendment and we're rigging the country against our own country, that's a problem. And here's the thing. I don't think it helps. I don't even think it helps. And I said this in 2019, right? I told people in 2019, I said, you guys can ignore what I'm saying. It's funny because, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but it's so wild to watch everything I said 6 years ago come true now. Because I told people in 2019, I said, listen, if you guys keep pushing these hate speech laws, if you keep being double standards, hypocrites, eventually you're going to lose favor and it's bad PR. If you look at the recent Pew polling, for the first time, a majority of American adults are not pro-Israel. They're skeptical, or they have an unfavorable view of Israel. Everybody under like 30 has not everybody, but a majority of under 30 has an unfavorable view. A majority of younger Republicans have an unfavorable view of Israel. Literally every group except for Republican boomers have an unfavorable view of Israel. And I could tell you the reason. And if you're pro-Israel, if you live in Israel, if you like Israel, you should want to listen to what I'm saying, because I'm trying to help you like get public perception in your favor. You can't just call everybody anti-Semitic and expect people to like you. You can't say everybody's an anti-Semite if they disagree with your foreign policy. That's not going to make people like you. You can't have global hate speech laws for your race, your religion, and your country all over the world and expect people to like it. They're trying to throw a politician in jail, or at least charge her with some sort of fine in Argentina, because she said something about the Israeli government. But she could say something about every government in the world. There's no crime. There's no crime about talking for other governments of the world. There's only one crime. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And the more this goes on, the more people are going to lose favor. So I'm trying to help out. It's like, I don't want war. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. It's like, I don't want people to hate each other. I don't want war. I want the world to respect each other. I think cultures don't have to agree, but if we can all come to a respect where it's like, they're them, we're us, and we can move on with our day, that's the world I want to live in. I want to be able to travel when there's not multiple wars going on. I want to be able to land in a country and know that somebody doesn't hate me. And I want everyone to experience that to some extent. But the more stupid stuff you do, the more tension it creates. For an example, I could use left-wing examples because it's easier. It's like, when you leave the border open, it's not good for Mexicans. I mean, I guess it's good if you hop over the border and get in real quick. Maybe it's good for you personally, but as far as like the perception of Americans for Mexicans, because, before the open borders, I don't think Mexicans have an unfavorable view in America. Like, maybe some people are not excited that they don't speak English. And, a lot of people do want America to maintain its culture. But at the same time, I would say, you leave the border open and 10 million people come over illegally from all over the world. Now people are like more annoyed at it. Now people are looking around like, who's legal, who's not. But if you have policies where that everybody's doing the right thing, it's not that bad. There's not that much craziness. Same with like immigration. I grew up around a lot of Asians and a lot of Indians. And, although they definitely, not everybody, but they do like keep to themselves a little bit and have their own culture. I had friends that were Asian and Indian, and I had a high favorability of Asians and Indians, because to me, it's like Indians were chill, Asians were chill. They weren't committing crimes. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like a safe area to live in. So I was like, I like Asians. I like Indians. They're cool. Like, I'm me, they're them, but I have no issue. Canada, I'm sure, felt the same way, but they got so much Indian immigration. Now it's weird because it's turning into like India and everybody's annoyed at it. So just having common sense immigration policies makes people less racist and makes tension less. And when you don't do that, and you don't address crime in certain communities, and you don't address the fact that it makes sense that, like, would India want to turn into America? Like, if would they want to be Africa? Would they want 50% of their population to be black? Probably not, but it doesn't make them racist. Just like, would Nigeria want to be 70% white? Probably not. And that doesn't make them racist. Like, they probably don't want that, and that's okay. So having honest discussions about race makes people kinder and more thoughtful. When you don't do that, which is what the left and the right's doing, it's like the left is causing more black-white racial tension. The left is causing more Mexican-American racial tension. The left is causing more every tension. They're wrong about almost everything. And then you get to the right, and they do the same thing. Everything they complain about people doing on the left, they do with Israel and Jewish stuff. But they're like, but when we do it, it's different. It's not different. Everything you say about the left is the same with you. And that's the annoying part. The annoying part is you're not helping. The annoying part is you're making it weirder for everybody. The annoying part is the tension is higher. And I don't want it to be higher, because why would I want that? Why would anyone want that? I want people of every ethnic group to be safe. I want people of every ethnic group to not have to argue over this petty stuff or even think about it. But that's not the country or world we live in right now, because there's 2 wars being fought and the whole world's being flooded with hate speech laws for one race, one religion, in one country. I don't agree with any hate speech laws. I don't think you should not be able to talk about homosexuals. I don't think you should not be able to talk about Muslim immigrants. Like, if you live in London and it used to be white and now it's Muslim and people are getting stabbed a lot, it doesn't mean you hate all Muslims, but you should be allowed to be like, where are these people coming from? And I don't like it. They might not please some people, but it's the quality of people that you're bringing in that changes the demographics and changes your culture and the landscape. And you don't have to say it's better. I don't believe in any hate speech laws. In fact, I think almost every hate speech law is anti-Christian. And I'm not playing the victim. I'm just saying, it's like, as a Christian, the Bible says something about homosexuals. You don't have to agree with it. You could say the Bible's hateful if you want, but at the same time, the Bible was one of the key books that has, created the foundations for America. No, they didn't follow it completely. They definitely did some libertarian principles, but they did mention religion quite often, and their belief in God was a huge factor in creating the foundations of America. So now you want to say that the Bible is homophobic and hateful? You can disagree with the Bible, but I don't like a speech law that makes the Bible hate speech. That's a little weird. And the anti-Semitism laws are the same thing. Christian Zionists constantly ask me, they say, Anomaly, I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't understand why you think this about Israel. And I just want to be clear, because I can't speak for everybody, because there's a lot of people that disagree with Israel for a lot of reasons. For me, I try to stick to America first principles to make it just simple, because I think that's the most relevant, at least for what I'm doing. I don't talk that much about like what Israel's doing in the sense of like, oh my gosh, yeah, I have opinions about it, but I talk about America and the hate speech laws for Israel in America. So all these other straw mans that people like make up in their head, they're like, why do you think this way? I've never said that. Listen to what I'm saying. And the irony of Christian Zionists not understanding what I'm talking about is, if you read the IHRA anti-Semitism laws, they mention Jesus, but this is how weak and pathetic most modern day Christians are. And I'm not hating on my own religion, but I call it like I see it. I'll criticize my own group as well. Americans, Christians, white people, part Puerto Ricans, whatever. The truth is, like, you're so dumb that you're supporting hate speech laws that mention Jesus. Imagine if Christians came together and got the whole world to pass anti-Christian laws and it mentioned Judaism or Jewishness. Jewish people would freak out, and rightfully so, because there's hate speech laws for another religion being passed against your religion. And that's where I give people credit in Israel and Jewish people in general, not all, because it's not a monolith, but it's like they actually have enough group respect to like want certain things and notice when people are being, a little testy and stuff. And while I disagree with them calling everybody anti-Semitic, I don't think it works, I do at least respect that they have some sort of group cohesion to actually look out for each other, even though they're doing it in a terrible way. And it has basically affected me negatively because they've lied about me constantly. But I have to call it like I see it. It's like, at least they somewhat respect themselves. Christians are so, I'm not saying all, but modern day Christians are so stupid. They support a hate speech law that mentions their Bible. Now their biblical discussion falls under the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech rules because they're trying to police who can and can't say a certain group killed Jesus in what context. They're trying to police how you interpret the Bible and how you use the references. So it's like, that's how dumb most modern day Christians are. They're like, I don't understand it, Anomaly. You don't understand why I'm against hate speech laws in America? Why? You don't understand that. That's kind of crazy. The thumb popped up. I want to try that again. Okay. Anyway, I saw a thumb pop up. I thought that was cool. And like, as an American and a conservative and a liberty-based person, how do you not understand what I mean when I talk about these hate speech laws? Like, what's so difficult to understand? It's such a simple concept for any rule. Any hate speech rule is going to lead to the breakdown of our free speech. And on top of that, you're a Christian and you're supporting hate speech laws against your own religion. Stupid. Like, what's there not to get? At least other groups, Islam or Judaism would be like, no, we don't support a hate speech law for another religion that says that our religion could be deemed hateful, but Christians do. Maybe people are right about that. Maybe they really are. It's like, if you want respect and you want to not be treated like sheep, stop acting like sheep. It's embarrassing. And you look at the West, it's like you could blame other people, but you should really blame yourself, right? I'm not going to say that no one's tricking you, but it's like, why is Europe so self-hating? Why are they so demoralizing? Why are they so confused? Like, I don't understand. It's like, yeah, people are telling you to do certain stuff, but you don't have to listen. I read a recent report, and I assume that the number is somewhat accurate. I'm guessing it's probably off or on by a few percentage points, but I asked, Twitter AI, I said, what percentage of Americans got vaccinated at least one dose? It said 81%. That means that only 19% didn't get vaccinated. I'm sure Democrats got vaccinated because of the science, and some Republicans, sure. But most Republicans did it out of fear of losing social access, fear of losing their job, fear of not getting invited over for dinner, fear of hurting grandma. So it's like, that's what we're dealing with here, folks. 81% of people can't even say no to government tyranny and a synthetic mRNA vaccine or a double pumpy Johnson & Johnson that just got Operation Warp Speeded rushed to the public under an emergency. That's the world we live in right now. You can't even get half the population to say no to that. And then you got Republicans supporting hate speech violations or hate speech laws. So I'm going to read a few comments and then I'm going to end this video, hopefully not that long. I'm just going to wrap up what I'm saying in general. Candace Owens shouted me out. I'll play the clip again real quick, and then I'll talk about it. Then I'll wrap this up.
Shauna writes, Anomaly. I love Anomaly, actually. He made my first video ever go viral. Had an interview with David Harris asking him to ask Trump the hard questions because he was close to the team.
Everybody loves Anomaly. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you, Candace. I appreciate it. And thanks for giving me credit I'll tell that story one day about her first viral video. It's an interesting one. But in general, she mentioned my interview with David Harris Jr. Somebody asked her the question and said, Anomaly brought up all this stuff. So when he attacks you, Candace, he knows better. I don't know if he is or isn't attacking her, but that's what they said. And if you go back to the interview with David, I told David, here's all this information that you don't ask Trump. Can you ask him this question if you get an interview? And he goes, why don't you ask him? I'm like, David, they're not going to let me have access that you have. And I get it though, but it's like, you get access for not asking the questions. I don't, because I do. It's whatever. But I said, he said, I'll ask these questions. I'll ask the ones about Bill Gates when I next interview Trump. I don't know if he's at another interview, but I highly doubt he asked those questions. But in general, I just wanted to wrap that up because I thought it was interesting and I thought it all comes full circle. My point with all this stuff when it comes to Donald Trump, because I want to be really clear. Some people, especially on Facebook, no offense, they're years behind. They say, give us a solution, or do you think that the left is better? So I want to address these two things before I look at the comments. Do I think the left is better? No. Do I think Kamala's better? No. Do I think Biden's better? No. There's certain topics we can't vote our way out of, right? So whether you want to yell at me all day because I did vote, or you want to yell at the people who didn't vote, or talking about voting is not that interesting to me. If you vote, cool. If you don't, cool. Republicans have some value, but it's a lot less than what people think. I get both sides of that equation. It's up to you, right? Whether you want to vote or not. But it's not that interesting of an argument to have, because at the end of the day, there's certain topics we can't vote our way out of. Donald Trump got in office. We still got a lockdown. We get hate speech laws under Trump. We get open borders under Biden. Both sides are flawed to a massive extent. And I have a theory that they're purposely tanking the left to make the right look desirable. Every time I bring up Trump, the NPCs will tell me, well, are you saying the left's better? No, they're so bad that they can make you make excuses for things you never would have. If the left were somewhat reasonable, you would be balancing the right off the left and be like, that's crazy. But if Donald Trump locks the country down, prints trillions of dollars, and rushes a vaccine and rushes the FDA to rush a vaccine and says it saved 100 million lives, in a normal world, that's egregious. In a normal world, that makes him one of the worst presidents in modern history, if not the worst. I guess Biden's probably worse than him because of the mandates. But it's like, Think about how crazy that is. Trump, his legacy is not really good at this point. I hope he makes a good legacy, but he's one of the worst presidents in modern history with Operation Warp Speed, the CARES Act, and the 15 days to slow the spread lockdown. With that being said, Republicans, they play it off Joe Biden and they go, well, at least he didn't mandate it. At least he didn't. And it's like, yeah, of course, at least he didn't mandate the vaccine. I agree. But it's like, if you have two parties that are pretty good, they play off each other. If you tank the left, you put Biden and left in literally hell. He might as well be like El Diablo at this point. Like the dude's like, you're going to have a dark winter. And like the dude is evil, right? One of the most evil leaders I've ever seen in my life during COVID. So now he's like the worst of the worst of the worst. Now Trump doesn't even have to be that good because as long as he's just slightly better than that or a little better than that, you're like, well, at least he's not that. They purposely tank the left to justify what the right's doing, and they play off each other like a ping pong ball. So until people realize that dynamic, there is no solution. It's like, well, are you saying that Biden's better? No. Are you saying that Kamala's better? No. Then what's the solution? People say, well, run for office. Running for office, why can't I just do my job of journalism? First of all, I probably would never win. And second of all, you have to figure out how it works. It's like if I ran for office, I'd get 5% of the vote. The press would destroy me. The donors wouldn't donate to me. And they donate to another candidate to elevate them, to make them a puppet. So it's like you need to identify how the system works in order to win. The solution is to figure this stuff out. And you have to call out Donald Trump. If the left is like, we hate Donald Trump, and then the right's like, we hate Joe Biden, they just go back and forth like ping pong balls. It never ends. It's like the solution is to wake up, talk about this stuff, and let Donald Trump and DHS Barbie doll and all these other people doing photo ops for the Trump administration while passing hate speech laws, let them know that you know what's going on. Let them know you're egregious for selling out the First Amendment. We know you took $100 million from somebody who cares about a foreign country, and we know you're selling our country out to that foreign country. You're selling out our First Amendment. You're saying that you think Congress should be owned by a foreign country. Like these are egregious things that nobody really wants to talk about. More and more it's happening. Like the solution is to mention it. The solution is not to just go back and forth. And I want to be clear to the non-voting crowd too. It's like whether you vote or don't vote, we can't vote our way out of this. I didn't think I could vote my way out of this. Like I didn't think I'm going to vote and everything's going to be good. I never thought that. It's like if I sit out of the election, the same thing happens anyway. If I vote, the same thing happens. My one vote really doesn't matter anyway. But the thing is, it's like if Joe Biden wins, we have open borders and they flood our country. They pass the same anti-Semitism, hate speech laws too. They're policing anti-Semitism as well. You can't vote your way out of this topic. So it's like so many people want to focus on so much stuff. They're like, let's argue about whether you voted or not voted. Why? We can't vote our way out of it either way. And you can't not vote your way out of it. That's not what happens. And then you got the right being like, well, give them some time. This is another thing I wanted to say real quick. I know this is long-winded, but I've been sitting on this for days. I haven't done a video, so I've been really like sitting on this stuff. People will say, give him some time. And, you know, like he's trying his best. There's a disconnect between what Trump did the first time and what people think he did. And I just want to be clear. When I wanted Trump in office instead of Joe Biden for a few reasons, I didn't think he was going to be perfect. And I'm not judging Trump off of like, he's the greatest president of our lifetime. Let's just give him some time because he's so awesome and I trust him. I don't trust Donald Trump. I don't trust Joe Biden and I don't trust Donald Trump at all. I look at Trump as the leader who did 15 days to slow the spread. I look at Trump as the leader who just bragged about doing 15 days to slow the spread. He actually said, it wasn't the governors, give me credit. It was the federal government who got everyone to shut down. He said that on his Twitter. He said the vaccine saved 100 million lives. He gave Fauci an award. He offered Bill Gates a White House position. He printed trillions of dollars. I'm not looking at it like Donald Trump is this hero who's getting a second chance. I'm looking at it like Donald Trump is not to be trusted. He sold us out the first time, and we got to keep our eyes on this guy because he's a proven sellout and a proven liar who never apologized for lying about the vaccine. He just keeps lying about it. So that's my baseline for Donald Trump. I know people don't understand it because they're like, how do you vote for him? It's like, I know what Joe Biden and Trump are. I know where they're at. And it is what it is, whether I vote or not. It's not going to change the scales either way, but I know who Trump is, right? And I'm hoping that people on his side will be able to identify this and call it out and get the party to shift. Because if we get somebody pro-America, they're going to come through the right. The gatekeepers got to get out of the way. They're not coming through the left, at least not in the next 30, 40 years. The left is cooked. So with that being said, it's like most people, they see Trump as like not the guy who sold the vaccine, not the guy who locked the country down, not the guy who gave Fauci an award, not the guy who worked with Bill Gates and offered him a position. They see him as like, I trust him, give him time. No, I'm not. First of all, no, I'm not giving him time because his track record's abysmal. And when he left office, he tanked the country before he did. He's not, he needs to work now because he's already a proven sellout. And then you add that to they only have 2 years. Next year, they're going to start campaigning for the next election, and they're going to get mad at criticism. So really, you only have 6 months for them to get something done before the next election cycle. And they're probably going to lose the House because Trump fumbled the bag on these policies I'm talking about. But in general, it's like they only have 2 years. They have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They have the full mandate of the American people. And everything they're doing is for anti-Semitism. It's like he can't focus on anything without bringing that into the equation. It's obnoxious. It's anti-American, and it's annoying. So it's like they don't have unlimited time. I want to say this too, because I look on my Facebook page and people are like, I asked the Facebook boomies, I was like, Facebook boomies, what, I'm just curious because I'm trying to understand, like, what would you consider, what would you be unhappy with? Like in 2 years or so, like if Trump didn't do this, what would bother you? Because I'm trying to see what they want. All the things that they want, I'm like, they're not going to get it. So in 2 years, the boomies they're going to get mad at me for 2 years. Then they're going to be on my side again. Cause like the things that they think Trump are going to do is hilarious. Like one of the top comments was like, arrest Fauci. He's not going to arrest Anthony Fauci. One, he gave Fauci an award. Two, he's in on it. A lot of the lockdown stuff. How could he arrest Fauci for doing stuff that he passed through executive order and signed off on? If Trump were to arrest Fauci, he's guilty of a lot of the same stuff. Like he can't go after Fauci, and he's friends with Fauci. So he's not even trying to. So it's like, are these people going to wake up in a year? Cause they're like, arrest this, arrest, dude, he's not arresting any of these people. Some people said, I want the full Epstein files. I believe, based off my research, that the day that the Epstein files weren't really getting released was the day that they replaced Matt Gaetz with Pam Bondi. Matt Gaetz noticed that the IHRA anti-Semitism laws were unconstitutional. Matt Gaetz noticed that the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws were anti-Christian and outlawed the gospel, as he said. That's his interpretation of it, but roughly it does in a sense, because now it can police what you can and can't say about certain aspects of Jesus in the Bible. And Matt Gaetz put his foot down. Because Matt Gaetz put his foot down, he got replaced by Pam Bondi, who is pro anti-Semitism hate speech law, and Pam Bondi, who was in Florida, who put the kibosh on the Epstein stuff the first time, essentially, because she was there for 7 years after the case. And Alex Acosta got hired by Trump. So it's like, if people think they're going to get the Epstein files, they're not. They're getting the Epstein hate speech laws. They're getting hate speech laws in America that Epstein would have used in his favor because they favor Epstein's group. He probably would have said everybody's just being hateful towards him if he were around doing what he did back then. So we're not getting those. So when are people going to wake up? It's like they'll give us something like they did the JFK files, but cover up all the stuff that actually matters and drop like one little nugget. But with the Epstein stuff, it's like they're not doing that. So I hope they do, I guess. But when are people going to join me and apologize? I don't need an apology, but like, are all like 95% of the comments that I was getting are like pipe dreams that don't even make sense. Like, I'm like, Trump's not going to do all that stuff. I'm glad you want him to. I'm glad that you say that you'll be upset if he doesn't, but it's like, that's all not happening. So, will these people wake up in 2 years when it's not done, or will they fall for the next trick? I'm not 100% sure, but I'll go off some of your comments now. That's the live stream today. Appreciate y'all. And let's read some of the comments, or at least some of the good ones. Someone said it was a way to get Gaetz out of office that was never going to go through. Oh yeah, here's another thing too while I go through the comments. Kristi Noem passed the IHRA anti-Semitism laws and definition into South Dakota. Look up the percentage of South Dakota, that ethnicity. She's passing hate speech laws for an ethnicity that barely even lives in South Dakota. Do you know why Kristi Noem passed those hate speech laws? One, everybody does, but I don't believe Kristi Noem, aka DHS Barbie, aka $50,000 watch, aka look at my big luxurious hair, aka I'm role playing, look at me, I took a selfie on an ice raid that I didn't do anything on. I don't think she would have been allowed to be at the DHS. It's like when you pass the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws for a group that barely lives in your state, it proves your loyalty to the establishment. They're like, okay, we can trust Kristi Noem because she's willing to sell out America for Israel. The fact that Matt Gaetz wouldn't do that, now he's out of Congress, now he's out of a job. But I don't even care because Matt Gaetz is a goofball. Like if you read his Twitter, he's not Thomas Massey, he's not Ron Paul. He's a clown. He gets a lot of stuff right, but he's a clown. He's always just like playing this stupid game, dressing up to go to Barbie things. It's like he's kind of a clown. But he definitely would have been better than Pam Bondi, but that's why he can't be there. We can't have anybody in a major position that doesn't pledge allegiance to the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws. And if you're willing to enforce the hate speech laws against the U.S. First Amendment, it tells the donor class and the politicians you're trustworthy because you will sell your country out. Let's read a few. Someone said only 1 in 5 were able to truly resist tyranny. Yikes. Isn't that a crazy stat? I don't like to shame people because at the end of the day, it's like, it is what it is. And I wouldn't worry about it. It's not a big deal. To some extent, it's like, you don't want you don't want your mindset. Your mind can heal your body. I'm not trying to say it could heal everything, but like your mindset, your attitude. So no matter what medical decisions you ever got, you have to be the best version of yourself. And I believe that your body will, can do amazing things. But at the same time, from a tyrannical level, yeah, it is crazy that 1 out of 5 people were able to resist tyranny and 4 out of 5 caved. Like that's what we're dealing with here. Like it's, to me, I don't want to reminisce on this, but when everybody was following suit, it made me so mad because they were like, dude, I'm going to the concert. I'm going on a cruise. I'm going to Coachella because I got vaccinated. But I'm with you, though. I'm with you, Anomaly. I think it's messed up what's going on. If you're with me, you wouldn't have got vaccinated or got a fake vaccine passport because all that does is play into the system. Now, if they could get enough compliance, I'm a slave forever. So you're not with me if you're following all the laws. You're basically screwing people like me over. The only reason they let us go, in my opinion, besides the competition between the 2 states and perhaps they got what they wanted, was the fact that they just overplayed their hand. It's kind of similar to the anti-Semitism hate speech laws where they push it and then like support for Israel goes down and down and down because they're just overplaying their hands. It's the same logic with the vaccine. Like if they would have just stuck to one vaccine, they probably could have got away with more stuff. But they're like, we need a second, we need a third. They always had the plan to make it like a flu shot, a yearly booster. But because the first one didn't, the efficacy was not that great, then they were like, we need a booster. And all the extra boosters just kind of like turn people off. So it's like compliance to the first one, 81%. Compliance to the second one was like, I don't know, 50s. The compliance to the third and the fourth, it's like now it's probably under 20%. So they lost the majority by just overplaying their hand. If they would have told people just get 1 and you're good to go, or get 2 and you're good to go, they probably could have dragged it out for another couple years with the mandates. But they never wanted to let go of the mandates. They were like, they're here, but the efficacy was like going down and down and down. Another thing too, just for future reference, the book How to Lie with Statistics is fascinating, and Bill Gates has it on his book list, so that's interesting too. But all you got to do is read that book, and you can see how they lie with statistics. I'll give you the most obvious one. When did they roll out the vaccine? Right? Tell me when they rolled out the vaccine. I believe it was like April, May, June. It was spring into summer. That's when they rolled out the first rollout of the vaccine. Go look at every flu chart and every chart of flu-like diseases or COVID-like diseases and look at how it spikes in the winter, crashes in the spring and summer, spikes in the fall and winter. It does that every year all the time. Winter is known as the flu season because I'm not really sure why. I don't know if it's a sunlight thing, a winter thing, indoors, air conditioning. I'm not really sure why it spikes in the winter, but I have some ideas, and it's pretty obvious that people get sick around those times more for whatever reason. So it's like if you roll out a vaccine right as the curve is coming down, the natural curve, and you're like, look how good the efficacy is doing. Look how good the efficacy is doing. And then it's like winter hits and it goes back up. They were just lying with statistics. It's like, look, it's working in May, in June, in July. Oh no, October came. It's spiking again. It's like if they would have rolled out the vaccine in November, do you think the numbers would have been as great as they were in May? Of course not. The first thing I said, this is like, I don't know if everybody's stupid or I'm smart. I can't really tell. Like, on one hand, I like to think that I'm smart. On another hand, I like to think that this is third grade math. This is something that I learned in like third grade, right? They roll out the COVID numbers and they say the COVID has 4% death rate or whatever, and they're like, this is like one of the most deadly diseases ever. And I'm looking at the death rate and I'm like, okay, what's the equation for the death rate of COVID? How many people got tested divided by how many people died? And then or you understand what I'm saying. I don't know if I said that exactly correctly, but it's how the variables, or I don't even know if it's called variables. See, I'm not even that great at math and I could figure this out, so I don't think it's that genius. But it's like you have the number of people who took tests, you have the number of people who died, and then you do the equation and it's like, that's the death rate. 4% of the people who got tested died. Once they rolled out the COVID tests, the death rate plummeted. Because at the beginning I said, who's getting tests right now? We don't have tests for the whole world. NBA players were getting tests. Rich people were getting tests. People dying in the hospital were getting tests. Those were the only people getting COVID tests. People at hospitals, NBA players. Okay. So you're telling me that most of the COVID tests are at the hospitals and they're seeing a massive death rate because they're testing everybody at the hospitals for COVID. As soon as they flooded the market with COVID tests, then the death rate went down. The death rate didn't go down. The statistics were wrong because they were using a small sample size that was completely biased. Like, it's so easy to see through that. I never took a COVID test too. Never shoved it up my nose. Never took an easier one. Not once. That was my line in the sand as well. Not getting a vaccine, not taking a COVID test, not happening, you know? And people were like, why not? Dude, I'm not letting them shove something in my, they're like, it hurts my nose really bad. It feels like it's going up into my eye. Even Thomas Massey said, he's like, if they rupture your membrane, they ruptured somebody's membrane when they did it. He's like, they don't care. You know, they don't care what damage it does. It's like, people were doing that every week to like work jobs. It's like, dude, I'm not going to get probed like I'm some like cattle. You know what I'm saying? It's embarrassing. People don't have that sort of pride though. They're like, well, you can afford to do that. How do you know? I would do it even if I lost everything. And in fact, you know, I don't like, the reason I got here is because I'm not that person. If I was that person, I wouldn't even be here. So no matter what the cost was, I would not do it. I don't care. Like, not doing a COVID test. I remember when Joe Rogan was testing people for COVID, like, do this test and you can go on Joe Rogan. I told people even then, I'm like, I wouldn't do it. And not that Joe invited me on, but if he did, and he's like, take this COVID test, it's non-intrusive, I'd be like, no, I'd rather not go on the podcast than ever. I wanted to never take a COVID test, and I did successfully. So that was nice. Yeah, someone's talking about Kary Mullis. They censored his videos. I made a bunch of videos about Kary Mullis, the inventor, Nobel Prize winning inventor of the PCR test. They deleted those videos. They banned me from TikTok. They censored it on Instagram. They censored it on Facebook. They censored it on YouTube. They weren't allowing people to see the inventor of the PCR test because they didn't want you to see what the inventor, the Nobel Prize winning inventor of the PCR test, said about the PCR test. And it's so frustrating because it's like, who's the real scientist? The genius who invented the PCR test, or the idiots who use the PCR test in a lab like everybody can and then work for the government? It's like the real scientist is the guy who invented it, not the idiots who misuse it or abuse it or say that it's doing something that the inventor said it didn't even do. It was all so obvious. The entire COVID thing was a IQ test and an ethics test. It's like, are you smart? Are you strong-willed? You know, I get it, but it's just like, I don't even want to think about it. But that just happened 2 years ago. People are talking about the real ID stuff. And a lot of people on my Facebook are like, Anomaly, who cares what Ron Paul says and Thomas Massey say? They're like, real ID, you know, it's a decades old and it's just getting enforced now. It's like, that's the problem, dingus. You know, I was going to say dingbat, but dingus is funnier. That's the problem, dingus. It's like, it's a George Bush era, Patriot Act era rule that nobody enforced until now. That's the problem of it. And it's like, these dinguses are going to act like they don't see the difference between trying to pass it and nobody enforcing it and DHS Barbie doll and trying to enforce it on everybody. The difference is it's being enforced now. Like, are these dinguses really that dingusy? You know what I'm saying? For the love of dingus, stop, get your dingus out of your dingleberry for 2 seconds and think with your brain. But it's like, who cares? It's just this. It's like, we just lived through a lockdown. Donald Trump was the architect, or at least the leader, during 15 days to slow the spread. He extended it and then took credit for it and then printed trillions of dollars. Like, that just happened. And then Democrats went even further. It's not like that didn't happen. If that never happened, I'd be like, yeah, trust the government for sure. But still, no, I never trust the government. But you get what I'm saying? It's like, are you like, that's just a mistake that was made because I like Donald Trump. It's like, maybe the elites are right about these people. Maybe you are cattle. Like, I always say this because I'm trying to challenge people, but you're talking and all I hear is moo. Like, are the elites supposed to look at you and be like, oh, these are really smart people? It's like, you act like literal cattle. You know what I'm saying? Like, why blame people who think you're cattle when you act literally like cattle? It's like, yeah, I mean, we did just get locked down and they printed trillions of dollars. And, Trump did say the vaccine saved 100 million lives. And then Democrat states locked down for 2 years. But it's a year and a half later. And this is different because it's just a Patriot Act Bush era policy that's being enforced by somebody who looks like she got too much plastic surgery and has a $50,000 watch on. It's like, we just lived through that. It would be like somebody coming today and being like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist because you think Pfizer's corrupt. It's like, did we not just witness what we witnessed? It's so stupid. And I want to say this too about any Republican, conservative, or liberal for that matter that uses the word anti-Semitism right now. And I'm not saying you can't call out hate and bad people, but use a different word because it's equivalent to social media censoring anti-vaxxers and, the press and the government smearing everybody as an anti-vaxxer who doesn't want to get the COVID vaccine. And then you're sitting online calling everybody anti-vaxxers. At that part, you're in on it. If the government and the pharmaceutical industry and the politicians are trying to force everybody to get a vaccine, and they're using the term anti-vaxxer in order to bully people who don't want to get the vaccine, and you're calling people an anti-vaxxer, you're in on it. It's the same thing with the anti-Semitism hate speech laws. They're passing global hate speech laws into America, and they're arresting people in other countries for the same hate speech laws right now. And Trump is using it to make sure that a Ron Paul or a Thomas Massie could never get a green card in this country. And if you're going to use the word anti-Semitism while the government's passing hate speech laws, it's equivalent to using the word anti-vaxxer. Like, you're that same person. Say what you're saying without using a word. If I can't explain how you're a racist without using the word racist, I don't know what I'm talking about. These words literally just mean I'm intellectually lazy. I want to make you seem like a bad person. I don't have to explain myself. It's like people get called racist and xenophobic and homophobic all the time when they're literally just telling the truth. So it's like those words don't mean anything. It's the same thing. Like, how is Thomas Massie anti-Semitic? Because he doesn't agree with foreign aid. Okay, that makes him an anti-Semite. How else? Like, somebody in the comment section, let me know, how is Thomas Massie anti-Semitic? He's one of the nicest guys ever. He has the same exact policy for every bill, no matter what country it includes or which hate speech law it includes. How is he hateful? No one can explain it. They just constantly use straw mans that don't exist. Because of Trump. It's like, whatever. All right, let's read a few more. Let's see. Someone said he's not a hater at all. Of course not. Let's see. Someone said, I'm using my passport until my driver's license expires. Yeah, I don't know what they're up to, but it's like, if you see what they're doing, they're not to be trusted. Like, yeah, could Real ID be nothing? Let's hope so. But it's the same government that did 15 days to slow the spread. It's the same government that extended it. It's going to be passed on to the Democrats eventually, who, even if you trust Trump, which you shouldn't, even let's just say you do, it's going to be passed to Democrats eventually, just like he did all this stuff for the vaccine, and then it got past the Democrats, and then they enforced it. Like, eventually, someone not Trump is going to win and use all the things that he gives them. So it's like, regardless of whether you trust him or not, you shouldn't. What are they going to do with it? This is the same government that locked us down. This is the same government that's enforcing hate speech laws. And this is the same government that's rigging every branch and angle of America to basically be a colony of Israel. It's like, you have to just worship an international group of one race, one religion, and one foreign country, or else you're hateful now. You can't say Trump's getting paid off, which is true. You can't say some people of that ethnicity have dual loyalty, which is true. You can't say that they control politicians. So it's going to be called anti-Semitic when you talk about George Soros. And once again, I've put this in so many videos. I'm not speculating. People will say, you're exaggerating. I'm a Republican. I'm pro-Israel, and I don't like George Soros. I've even seen people in the comment section say, Anomaly, I'm a big fan. I'm Jewish. I don't like George Soros. I'm not saying that you like George Soros. I'm saying the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws will prevent you from speaking about George Soros. And I'm not guessing. I read articles. The U.S. State Department has already called people anti-Semitic for saying that George Soros controls politicians. The State Department of our country has called foreign countries anti-Semites because they talked about George Soros puppeting their politicians. It's already happening at multiple organizations, including ones that Jordan Peterson works with. Like, I'm not guessing. I'm not like, maybe they'll do this and stop your criticism of George Soros. They're already doing it in 15 different American organizations, including the United States federal government. So it's like, even if you're Jewish in America, pro-Israel, and you just want to say that George Soros controls left-wing politicians, that breaks one of the IHRA anti-Semitism laws. In fact, they could use that. Let's just say you were pro-America, pro-Israel, and you were trying to get a green card. They could use your criticism of George Soros to stop you from getting a green card. And as much as you say, well, they wouldn't do that, how do you know? How do you know who's making the decisions behind the scenes? It's not who you think it is. It's not the people that you watch on television making these decisions. And eventually these decisions and these laws and these rules will be passed to a Biden-like administration or some terrible Democrat who runs. And what do you think they're going to do with it? They're going to serve their donors the same way Trump's serving his donors. So Trump gets hundreds of millions of dollars. So Trump's enforcing these hate speech laws for his donors. And then when Democrats get in, they're going to do the same thing that Trump's doing, except for the people that pay them, because that's what they're doing. It just sucks being so right about this. You know, I hate being right 6 years ahead of time. I hate being one of the best journalists in America. You know, I hate being one of the most influential content creators in America. It just pains me to hold this huge burden.
Shauna writes, Anomaly. I love Anomaly, actually. He made my first video ever go viral. Had an interview with David.
It's tough. It's tough being this great. I'm joking. But seriously, it's like, I know I'm right about this. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care how many like lying gatekeepers they throw at me. I don't care. I'm right about this. I'm not caving. I could beat anyone in a debate. Literally, send anybody to me, any person, I'll win the debate because I'm not lying. It's not even cockiness. It's just, I'm right. Like, I've read the hate speech laws. I've borderline memorized them. I've called it out since 2019. I read the legislation. I know what they're doing. I know what countries they've been passed in. I know how they're enforcing it. I know all of these things. I'm not losing a debate on this. How could I possibly lose a debate on this when I'm not lying? You know, it's like, maybe if I was like really dumb, I could lose a debate, but that's also not the case. So, you know, I've been, and for those wondering, it's like, I've been asking someone to debate me on this since 2019. I said, Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, anybody. If you guys don't want to debate me, send somebody smaller to debate me. Because I know people will say, you're not big enough. Okay, I don't care. I'm not, it's not like a, you know, a genitalia measuring competition. I'm just saying, like, send me one of your little minions, you know, send like Turning Point Minion at me, or like send me like Michael Knowles or Andrew Boring or Jeremy Schnoring, or, you know, like, I don't really care. Andrew Clavin. I forgot. Andrew Clavin's boring. Jeremy Boring Schnoring. I just, because Andrew's so boring, I forget that his last name's not boring too. But I'll debate anybody. You know what I'm saying? I'll debate Brett Cooper. Oh wait, Brett Cooper left because she wanted to get away from you guys. Oh yeah. Never mind. I mean, you know, whoever you got, send me an intern. I don't really care. I'll debate anybody on this topic if you want to send them from an organization. But at the same time, it's whatever. I don't. At this point, I'll just do my job. Let's see. I'm going to read. Someone said, I love when people who have 0 kids tell me how to be a parent. Well, yeah, I don't think anybody with no kids, I don't talk about parenting because that's why I don't do it. But if someone else with no kids is telling you about parenting, then, you know, I don't know. Just don't listen to them. Someone said, debate Brian again. Here's the thing. I would, but I just don't like him. I don't like his attitude. I don't like his two-faced kind of like nature. And I've already debated him. So it was a boring debate. We talked in we talked in circles about something that I didn't find that interesting. And I just, you know, I don't like I don't know. I'm over it. Maybe one day again, but today's not the day. Someone said, in my opinion, the speech laws are backfiring tremendously. Yeah, of course. Of course. Like, no matter what angle you take of this, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you're pro-America, the speech laws don't make sense. If you're pro-First Amendment, the speech laws don't make sense. If you're pro criticizing foreign nations, the speech law doesn't make sense. If you're pro-Bible, the speech laws doesn't make sense. If you're a libertarian, the speech laws don't make sense. If you're pro-Israel, the speech laws don't make sense, because the more they pass them, the more people get annoyed, and the more people get annoyed, the more they get called anti-Semitic. Like, there's no world where this makes any sort of sense whatsoever. Someone said Noahide laws. Please explain those. Well, I think the Noahide laws are, I mean, I haven't confirmed this, but I've heard people talk about this. I think they're the historical name for the hate speech laws, you know, like that's my limited knowledge on this. I know Adam Green has talked about it a bunch and other people mention it all the time. I think it's the historical name for the laws, like that these have been tried before, and that's maybe the religious name for them. I'm not familiar with the religious aspect of it, so I'm not sure. But what I will say is that's what people say the IHRA hate speech laws are. They're saying that they're the historical or religious Noahide laws being passed into legislation. So I don't care what people call it. It's like when people were calling out COVID tyranny, call it communist, call it fascist, call it anti, like, I don't care what you call it. If you call it fascist, whatever, as long as you're against it. If you call it communist, I don't care. It's tyrannical. You know, the mandates were tyrannical. So I had left-wing friends where they're like, it's not communist, it's fascist. Bro, I don't care what you call it. As long as we're on the same page, then it's fine. It's the same with the IHRA anti-Semitism laws. Call them what you want. Someone said that's not what they are. Well, then I can't really speak on it. So I to be honest, though, I'm pretty sure that they are part of, like, that is what it is, though. You're saying it's not, but I'm pretty sure that that kind of is what it is. It is like basically people are saying that it's historical hate speech rules and rules that, you know, people have to follow or something. But what's my take on Carmelo Anthony's self-defense argument? First thing, I'm sorry to like divert, but I was a Knicks fan growing up, and you know, I'm not really a huge Carmelo Anthony fan because I feel like he never won a championship. But you know, Carmelo Anthony is one of the most famous basketball players of our era, and I just think it's crazy that guy had almost the same exact name. I was like, dude, that sucks for Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player. For the next 2 years, like, his name is going to be all over the place, and it's going to be for a bad reason. So I just thought, like, Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player, is catching strays. Like, that sucks. As far as the case, I mean, what I would say is my instinct is that kid got murdered and it's insane. But if I were on the jury or I were a judge, I have to look at all the evidence. So I have to see like what exactly happened. Obviously, there was no reason for that kid to stab the other kid. He didn't need to kill him over an argument. So I think that is wrong. But if you want like if I had a real breakdown of it, I got to wait till all the facts. Like, I need to see exactly what the white kid did before the black kid stabbed him. I'm sorry if that's like blunt, but I'm just being honest, you know, like, I don't know, the white kid got killed by the black kid, but I guess I could say their names, Austin something, Carmelo. You know, that's like, if I'm going to cover it, I gotta see every single step that happened. Cause if not now, I'm just reacting based on what I think, but I don't know the full extent. Like, from what I've heard, he just told him to get out of the tent. I guess like I said, if I were on the judge and jury, I'd have to find out, was that really the wrong tent? You know, was that the wrong tent? That changes the story. Was it the tent he was supposed to be in and the white kid was just being mean? That changes the story. It doesn't justify the murder of him. I'm not saying that, but you understand what I'm saying? A judge and a jury's job is to listen to all the evidence and make a decision, not just react on social media. So my instinct and my you know, reaction is that kid got murdered, and the one kid obviously shouldn't have done it. But, you know, as a news analyst, I should probably research all of the info. But if I could predict and guess, my guess is that he murdered the kid, and my guess is that the court is going to let him off the hook. I'm not saying that's true, but that's like my prediction, is that I think when it's all said and done, I'll probably think that it was murder. but the jury will probably think it was self-defense. It is interesting. I mean, it's messed up, but it is interesting. Like, say, and I'm not trying to be like controversial or whatever the word is. I'm not purposely being a contrarian. I'm just being real. Like, say the white kid was black and the black kid was white. You would have a lot of people on both sides thinking the exact opposite. Let's just say it's the same exact story. You know, a black kid was sitting in a tent. A white kid came in. The black kid said, "Don't sit here." The white kid's like, "No, I want to," or whatever. And then the white kid grabbed his stuff, and then, or I'm sorry, the black kid grabbed his stuff, and then the white kid stabbed him. I feel like a lot of the pro-white people would probably be like, "It was self-defense," and then a lot of the black people would be like, "It's murder." I'm not saying that's right, and I'm not saying that deters my decision, but I'm just being honest. Like, I do feel like both sides would take the other side based on the limited info that they have, just based off of the races. Do you think so? I mean, I'd think so. Like, I don't know. I don't think most black activists would think the same thing they're thinking now, and I don't think that most conservative white activists, or whatever you want to call it, would think the same thing. But I don't know. Someone said you don't run if you're innocent. Like I said, based on the limited information I have now, I think it was murder. But I don't, if I'm going to cover this thoroughly, I got to like literally look at every piece of information. That's what you're supposed to do, at least. Someone said it sucks being right 6 years ahead of time. Dude, the burden that I'm carrying, Dude, it sucks being so right ahead of time. It's this massive burden on my shoulder, and then I just do squats, and my legs get really strong from squatting the burden. No, I'm joking. That's just like so douchey, but I just thought it was funny in my head. But imagine if it were two black kids. Someone said, yeah, or yeah. I don't know. I'm like trying to imagine it right now, but I'm kind of like moved on. Anomaly shrugged, like Atlas shrugged. That's funny. I'm gonna write a book like that, and then just be like, I'm really cool, and then just like that's the whole book. I'm like $100, I'll donate half of it to fighting anti-Semitism if you buy my book. Someone said at least you're willing to look into it deeper. I mean, I think so. I think that's the play. When am I coming back to Italy? I don't know. When Trump deports me. When he deports me for being an honorable American who sides with the First Amendment over his donors, I guess that's when I'll go to Italy, or on vacation sometime. Someone said not voting for Trump. If Trump ran again, I'd have to sit the election out. As much it was paying me because I hate that what Democrats are doing. I knew Trump was sneaky. I knew what he did, and I knew that he was a donor-sucking liar. I didn't think he would go this far. You can call me naive. I can't say I'm surprised or anything, but like I knew he was pro hate speech law, but I didn't know that he was going to run around the country deporting people who are critical of Israel. I thought he was just going to deport criminals, but I'm not shocked by it. It's not like the craziest thing I've ever seen, but I guess I had very low expectations for him, and he underachieved. So I don't care about Trump anymore. He's not getting favorable press from me. I mean, I'll give him favorable press when he's doing the right thing, but he's lost favor with me completely because he's a fraud. So, it's like I had such low expectations for these people, and they somehow crawl under the bar that I set. So it's like, what's the point? I was like, he'll close the border and deport illegals. And he's like, actually, I'm going to deport critics of Israel who didn't commit a crime. It's like, that's freaking insane, bro. Not the most shocking thing, but it's like, it's so anti-American. It's so anti-First Amendment. It's so not pro-America. Like, if you were deporting people who hated America and you could prove they literally like hated our First Amendment, hated our Second Amendment, I mean, it's still a court case, but it's like that would make more sense to me. Like, someone comes to America and they say, I hate the First Amendment, I hate the Second Amendment, I hate the Constitution, and liberty sucks. It's like, okay, I'm not saying they should deport them, but it would be a lot different. Literally, someone could be like, I love the First Amendment and I don't like Israel. He's like, deport them, deport them. It's like, all right, Trump, relax, dude. Trump sucks so hard, but it sucks because like I want to like Trump so bad because but I just can't anymore. I liked him for like a week and I was like, please don't blow this again. And he already blew it. So I don't know. Someone said, I hope I get deported to Switzerland for my anti-dank global homo memes. Is that where they'd send you, to Switzerland? Why would they send you there? Are you Swiss, or you just want to go there? Someone said TDS can also mean Trump diluted syndrome. Dude, I know this guy from when I lived in LA. That was like friends of a friend of mine. He's definitely like a leftist, and he's been going around and just like agitating at Trump rallies and stuff. And I know him. He was like my friend's friend. You understand what I'm saying? Like I saw him at my friend's house sometimes because they like were friends. But I mean, we were somewhat friends. I wouldn't say we were best friends, but I know who the guy is. You know, I followed him because we met like I said, like 6-7 years ago. But anyway, he's been going to Trump events, agitating and just like yelling it and singing songs in a bullhorn. He did one at this recent Trump event, and he's like singing about like who shot the terrorists or something, like Trump shot the terrorists, and then he's getting kicked out of the Trump rally. I wish I had the video. He's getting kicked out, and the guys who are kicking him out just look so ridiculous. Literally, I'm not even joking. The one guy literally looks like the KFC man. And then the other guy just has like a huge beer belly and just looks like the most generic, like boomer Trump supporter ever. And it's like, you know, there's two angles to this video. One is like, okay, this guy's an agitator. I don't like him because he's leftist. The other angle is like this is is this the average Trump supporter? I'm not saying everybody looks like that. I've been to a Trump rally and people were cool, but it's like, to me, that's just as embarrassing as an agitator. Hold on. I could actually probably upload and I can upload the video I want to show you, because like the one guy looks like the KFC man, and I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, it's pretty funny. Hold on, I'm gonna upload it. I'm trying to airdrop it. Give me a second. Sorry about this. It's like too funny to not show you. Sorry. Come on. No, we're not. We're just not gonna let me. Oh, I think it's because I don't have my internet on. It's not gonna let me airdrop it. Oh well. Funny moment ruined by me using a direct Ethernet connection for my internet. Oh well. Someone said, let's be real, bro. Trump is like 99% of the politicians is part of the NWO. Right now, only the second coming is going to save us. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I get what you're saying, but like, I don't know. I don't feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel called to earth to be like, I'm giving up, only Jesus can save me. Like, yeah, on a spiritual level, only Jesus can save you. But like, there were so many civilizations inspired by God, inspired by our Lord and Savior, that built great civilizations. They built great governments. They built great societies. They built great buildings. They built beautiful architecture and artwork. And they didn't just say, we're screwed. The only thing that can help us is the end times. So, I just don't feel like that's true. I feel like that's what the average Christian thinks now, which is why Christians are losing everything, because they're all so lazy and weak. And I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, I wouldn't exist if that's what my ancestors thought. I wouldn't exist if that's what Europeans used to think. I wouldn't exist if that's what the Romans and that, like, this is never what anyone thought. It's like, we're screwed. Like, why are we screwed? I guess we're screwed because everybody's so fat and dumb in this country. I'm not everybody, but and I know that's not coming off right, but like, yeah, I guess we're screwed because everybody's obese and just like slurping down corn syrup and just like watching television. But in theory, it shouldn't be like we're screwed because both sides are corrupt. It could be like, we're going to figure it out and demand politicians get better. But it seems like that can't happen because Trump has a stranglehold on like the Republican mindset. And this is something I've thought about too. Now they're saying, oh, we want to run a third time. We want a third election. And I'm like, dude, listen, Trump, he has 8 years. If he can't get stuff done in 8 years, it's time to move on. I'm not saying that the next politician is going to be great, but Trump was in the Epstein orbit. Clintons were in the Epstein orbit. Biden, by default, was in the Epstein orbit and surrounds himself by people who are in the Epstein orbit to some extent. Like, can we get a politician that's young enough to not have been in the Epstein orbit, or do we have to live in the Epstein orbit for the next 20 years? It's like the 2016 was like Epstein's friend versus Epstein's friend. 2020 was a guy that is friends with all of Epstein's friends and is around those people like Biden, and Trump, who was in the Epstein orbit as well. And then this election is just a repeat of the same status quo. And Kamala is young, but she works with all those people anyway. It's like, when are we going to get over this as a country? Like, don't you want to get out of the Epstein orbit, or no? We got to stay in it because you like one of the characters. I'm not saying Trump is guilty, but we're not getting we're not getting Epstein files. We're getting anti-Semitism hate speech laws. And if you figure out what Epstein was doing, you'll realize why hate speech laws in America are the exact opposite of getting the Epstein files. It's like literally the exact opposite. Getting Epstein files would reveal who Epstein was working for and would reveal what Epstein was doing and why he was compromising American politicians. Instead, you're getting hate speech laws that prevent you from talking about one race that Epstein just so happened to be a part of, one religion that Epstein may or may not have been a part of. I don't know if he was a religious man. And then one foreign country that there's already news articles saying that he might have worked for, because that's the obvious probability. So it's like, that's what these hate speech law, you know what I'm saying? It's like, how do people not realize? They're like, I want the Epstein files. So does everybody, but it's like, you're not getting them. You're getting hate speech laws for Epstein's ethnic group. That doesn't strike you as a little opposite? No. It's like, it's like, I want the George Soros files. It's like, instead, here's a hate speech law that can consider you an anti-Semite for saying that George Soros controls politicians. And then boomers who watch Fox News and Charlie Kirk are like, yeah, we're crushing the deep state. It's like, what? You know, it's all just so obvious. Let me see. You should touch on comments from Stephen Miller and Marco Rubio that not even the courts can dictate how the president conducts his foreign policy. I'd have to look more into it because I got to see what Rubio and Stephen Miller said. To be honest, like, I don't know. Now that I know what Trump's administration is doing, it's like getting hung up on like specific stories. I get what you're saying, though. It is a big precedent as far as the court cases and like what Trump is doing. It's just, now that I know that his organization or his administration is being nefarious, I don't trust anything that they're doing. I made a video the other day where I'm like, listen, I'm American. In theory, I want America to win. But it's like, if America is anti-America, if the people running America hate us and are willing to lock us down and sell us pharmaceuticals and disgusting food, like what are we doing with this trade war? You know, people don't think critically. They just think of like left versus right or America versus China. But it's like, you got Howard Lutnick on television being like, Europe won't take America's big, beautiful beef. It's like, why isn't Europe taking our big, beautiful beef? Is it because our beef is so big and beautiful and Howard Lutnick is cosplaying as Trump? No, it's because Europe has different standards of beef and our beef doesn't cut those standards. Like, we're not, I mean, it would be nice if real ranchers could sell their beef to Europe, but we have disgusting standards of meat that's not even good for our own people. So is Trump, this is the problem with corrupt, immoral capitalism. Moral capitalism is good. Trump is not doing capitalism when he's using government intervention, but also he's just trying to sell all the time. It's like selling a bunch of stuff and making money off hurting your own people is not good. But Trump is the ultimate snake oil salesman. He'll sell salt to a snail and water to a whale. He'll sell Operation Warp Speed, the Trump vaccine. It saved 100 million lives. Like, I don't want to sell Europe our beef that's filled with like GMOs and hormones. Like, why would I want to do that when they have higher standards for their beef? We have good beef. Our ranchers have good beef that are organic, but like, that's what they're trying to strong arm Europe to take our garbage beef that's destroying our own people so they can destroy Europeans. They're trying to say that a trade deficit means you're being taken advantage of. I'm sorry, that's not how trade works. Could it be more even in certain countries? Of course, there's definitely ways to negotiate with certain countries to get a better equation. But everything is a trade deficit. I have a trade deficit to Amazon by choice because I don't sell products on Amazon. I have a trade deficit to my supermarket. I consume. And then if you've bought a God Bless hat and I've never bought from you, there's a trade deficit with us. There's a surplus and there's a difference between who's bought and who's sold. If we buy more products from a country than they buy from us, we're not being taken advantage of. That not necessarily. It's like, is Zimbabwe supposed to buy more stuff from us? You know what I'm saying? Is they could, I guess it could go either way, but like, are we gonna force Chile to buy more American products? Like, that's not how sales work. Just because one person buys and one person sells, it doesn't necessarily mean you're being taken advantage of. So I wonder what Trump's true intentions with the tariffs even are, because I don't trust him at all. It's like, what's he trying to do? Is he trying to force Europe to eat garbage beef filled with hormones? Is he trying to crush China for the open society type people who run America and, you know, the BlackRocks of the world? Like, I'm not a fan of China, but it's like, what are you trying to do with China? Because I know the people that control America, they want to crush China and they want to crush Russia, because Russia and China are two strong nations that are ethnically sound. The people that want open societies, they want every country except for one country to be multiracial. They want every country except for one country that they pass hate speech laws to have open borders. And I'm sure some people even want it there too. But it's like, I'm not Russian, but I don't want to turn Russia into San Francisco. I'm not Chinese, but I don't want to turn Chinese into San Francisco. It's like, open your borders, China, and take our GMO meat. It's like, they got their own garbage meat that they could feed their people. But you understand what I'm saying? It's like, people, they look at Trump through the lens of like, he's this heroic American who's going to do stuff for us, when he's the same guy who said that the vaccine saved 100 million lives. If you're willing to say a COVID vaccine saved 100 million lives, you're a liar. You're not to be trusted. You will sell water to a whale, salt to a snail, and hormone-filled food to, you know, your own base. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, hopefully he's got a plan, but I don't trust him or his advisors. And one thing too, Bill Ackman was getting mad at Howard Lutnick and stuff, because Bill Ackman owns a bunch of stocks. And not that I trust Bill Ackman at all, I don't. But Bill Ackman was saying, you know, Howard Lutnick owns a bunch of treasuries, so when the stock market tanks, he makes money. Once again, I always go by what's being said, not the person saying it. So although I disagree with Bill Ackman on a lot, is he right about that? Because that is interesting. You know, like, I'm not sure if it's 100% true, but Howard Lutnick is a billionaire. Howard Lutnick is connected to Cantor Fitzgerald. I think that's one of his companies that he is like the head of. And it's like, if they own a lot of treasuries and treasuries go up when the stock market goes down, then he has financial incentive to do it. And it's like Elon Musk, who works with Trump, he loses tens of billions of dollars when the stocks go down. So he doesn't want the stock market to go down. So, you know, I'm not saying that one is right or wrong, but people are delusional where they're like, I like Trump, so I'll just assume everyone in his administration is doing this for me. It's like, dude, if they own treasuries that don't get tanked when the stocks tank, they're potentially profiting off of insider trading, essentially, to some extent, because they're pushing the policies that are going to make certain moves, and they're playing God now. They can crash the, you know, net worth of the top 20 billionaires, except for Warren Buffett, because he got out of the stock market to a large extent, and they could potentially, you know, fill their own bank account. So I'm not saying you have to agree with Bill Ackman or dislike Howard Lutnick. I'm just saying these questions need to be asked. This is journalism. This is like, what are you doing? Because, you know, even if I were let's just say I'm the president and I know that I'm going to crash the stock market, am I going to sell my stocks or am I going to keep them? Like, maybe, you know, these are just interesting things where it's like, what's really going on? So I'll answer this question since you're writing in all caps. That's not why, but you said, when you were asked, does Israel have a right to exist? Do not submit. Instead, ask, what exactly do they mean with that question? Well, I can explain it, because I'm not gonna play games of like double speak from other people. I'll just tell you what I think, why, and what I think they mean, I guess, to some extent when they use that question. Do I think Israel has a right to exist? Yes. Do I think I have a right to tell other countries if they should or shouldn't exist? No. Even between like Armenia, Azerbaijan, you know, I have opinions, but I'm not the leader of the world. I don't get to control the borders and tell Ukraine has a right to. Does Ukraine have a right to exist? Absolutely. Does Russia have a right to be pissed off at them? Yes. And if Russia takes part of their land, I don't really care. So I'm not saying this to play it safe. This is what I truly believe. People in Israel probably don't know this because I get such bad press, but I think they do have a right to exist. With that being said, the people that say, do you think Israel has a right to exist? Often what they mean is like, do you think we can bomb tens of thousands of children and call you an anti-Semite if you disagree with us completely? So it's like, do they have a right to exist? Absolutely. Do people have a right to be disgusted with their foreign policy? Yes. Does one tragedy give you the right to do all this other stuff? I mean, you could say it does, but not everybody's going to agree with you. Like, I don't think it does, but you know, they're like, well, you had 9/11 and you did all this. Most Americans think we lied after 9/11. So it's like, if you're going to use that as an example, this is our 9/11. It's like, after 9/11, we invaded 5 different countries and we destroyed our country over it. We wasted trillions of dollars. We got hundreds of thousands of people killed. Our country's worse off for it. The Middle East isn't any safer than it was. And after all of the TSA checks that they've done since 9/11, I don't believe they've caught a single terrorist. So if you want to use 9/11 as our example and be like, don't be a hypocrite, I'm not a hypocrite. I think we were lied to after 9/11, and they used that essentially to destroy our country and destroy other countries. Like, I don't think that was that pretense was used correctly at all. So, I think I don't agree with what Ukraine's doing, but I'm not going to say they have no right to exist. They have a right to exist. Putin has a right to not be happy with what they're doing. Putin has a right to be upset with the UN and the NATO, and Putin has a right to want to protect Russians in Ukraine who are getting discriminated against. I don't really care. If Ukraine keeps 100% of its land, good for them. I have some Ukrainian friends. I'm sure they want that, and they have every right to want that. If Russia takes part of the place where Russians live and most of them support Putin, that's also fine. I don't really care. So with Israel and Palestine, it's like everyone there's a lot of people who think they don't have a right to exist. Israelis don't think Palestine has a right to exist. Palestinians don't think Israel has a right to exist. Me, I'm not Lord Balfour. I'm not a Rothschild. I don't get to decide whose land that is. Like, Lord Balfour gave them the declaration and then they took more land and said they didn't. Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's way above my pay grade. Maybe if I was Lord Balfour or Rothschild, then I get to decide whose land it is. But, I'm a YouTuber. I make social media videos. I'm a news analyst. I'm a hip hop artist. I don't get to draw the lines of who takes what, I could have an opinion on it, but I just don't think it's my job to tell people I don't know. I could tell you the history of it to some extent and who lied, but someone said, what do you mean by have? It's an interesting question you posed there. What do you mean by land? Like the country. Well, do you mean the sea? The skies? What? All right, that's enough Jordan Peterson for the day. Not my best, not my worst. Someone said, I've been commenting your name on Candace's show every day. You're one that opened my eyes to this. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you to, I think it was Shauna. Thank you, Shauna, for mentioning me. It really just inspired this whole video. So I appreciate it. You said white people. What about white people? I missed your comment, but did I see Wes Huff's comments on the Schofield Bible? No, I don't know who Wes Huff is. I'm not familiar with this guy. Let's see. Who is Wes Huff? Someone said, not the same at all. Israel's killing Palestinians based on their faith. Palestine welcomed them in. I'm not saying it's the same. I never said what's happening is the same. I just said, I don't think I have a right to draw the lines of a country. I'm not saying that Israel and Palestine are doing the exact same things. I never said that. I'm not justifying what Israel's doing. I understand that they were welcome in, and I understand that Israel slowly took more and more lands. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, Palestinians have a right to be upset. Americans have a right to be upset. Americans have a right to side with Israel. Americans have a right to side with Palestine. I don't want to live in a country controlled by a foreign government that says you can't agree with Palestine or else we'll say you're a terrorist. That's crazy to me. I wouldn't want them to do that for Israel too. I think an American citizen should, if we're truly free, you should be able to justify what Israel's doing, and you should be able to justify what Palestine is doing in a free country. But, if our entire government's going to rig it for the people that they give foreign aid for, it's not a big coincidence. It's like, who is one of the biggest donors to the Trump administration, the GOP? It's a family that gives them hundreds of millions of dollars, almost $500 million now, to do things for a foreign country. And then they get things, and then they get billions of dollars of foreign aid. It's not like that's random. I'm sure if some Palestinian billionaire were giving billions of dollars to politicians, I'm sure they'd probably do pass Palestinian hate speech laws. They're getting bought. So that's what I'm concerned with. But yeah, I have opinions on the war. I'm just being fair. I'm concerned with the First Amendment and our ability to talk about this stuff. If I was in Palestine, I'd be concerned with a lot more than that. And I'm sure if I lived in Israel, I'd be concerned with other things, you know? Someone said, you're a slave under the London city crown and you do nothing because Trump is a Jesuit doll. I think you have a right to say that or think that, but I don't know. Why do you think they're passing anti-Semitism hate speech laws and not Jesuit hate speech laws? I'm just curious, like, what your thought on that, unless they're part of the same entity. I think the UK, America, Germany, France, Australia, I think they're all essentially controlled by the same entity. So you have a right to speculate on what you think that is. But, if they pass Jesuit hate speech laws or Freemason hate speech laws or any sort of hate speech laws in America, I'll be saying the same thing. So, have I heard of the 2029 asteroid heading for Earth? Not trying to jinx it, but it sounds about as real as Gayle King, going up into space, and Katy Perry and who else was there? Lauren Sanchez. They went up in like a giant chode ship. They're like, look at this chode ship. It's like, wee, and then it lands and they're like, oh my God, I'm back on Earth. It's like, you never left Earth. And I'm not saying this as a conspiracy theory. I'm saying this as a fact. They didn't leave Earth. Google, how far does Earth's atmosphere go? They are now admitting that Google. This is mainstream science, folks. This is not conspiracy. They're admitting that the atmosphere goes past the moon. So everything they do is in Earth's atmosphere. That's not a conspiracy. It's not a flat Earth made up talking point. It's a fact. The International Space Station is in Earth's atmosphere. The Hubble telescope is in Earth's atmosphere. Gayle King and Katy Perry went up and down, allegedly, in Earth's atmosphere. That's cool. If they really went, that's awesome. Maybe they did. Maybe they went up. Maybe they went down. It's possible. Maybe they didn't. I have no idea. To me, Lauren Sanchez going up and down in like a chode rocket, I'm not really buying it, but I'm not that opinionated about it. If you think it's real, I don't care. It's not going to change my day. But they're in Earth's atmosphere. That's a fact. Look it up. These are simple things people could look up to. And even with this, I don't say what I don't know. And I don't go further than I need to go, because in order to be effective and in order to be honest, I don't need to make up claims. I don't know everything, but I know that mainstream science is now admitting that this is all in Earth's atmosphere, including the moon. It's definitely interesting. They didn't say that, I don't think, 20, 30 years ago. They found out, according to space.com, they found out that the Earth's atmosphere extended past the moon in like 2018 or in those years. And now it's like coming up in Google AI searches. Like, it's so mainstream that it's known as science now. And if you notice, science changes based on the technology and understanding we have. So this idea that science is settled is the most anti-scientific, dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, literally, science never settled ever. Like, that's never was true. I mean, math is pretty clear, and like up and down, I think those are pretty standard. But every inventor, every scientist who won a Nobel Prize, they didn't just follow the science. They literally they innovated. Innovation is basically challenging the science and coming up with a different conclusion. So it's like, if the science were settled, they would say the same thing about Earth's atmosphere that they said 20 years ago, but they're not, because science doesn't settle. The fact that they were saying that during COVID, the science is settled with climate change. The science is settled with carbon. The science is settled. Then why do you keep changing it every 5 years? Why the science didn't settle on the efficacy of the vaccine? You rolled it out in May. You used false data to pretend like it was crushing, and then it all fell apart. You're like, oh, it's not as good as we thought it was, because your thoughts were based on lies and propaganda. Your thoughts were not based in science. Someone said they will release Epstein files completely redacted because the entire file is anti-Semitic. I mean, it's possible. They're not going to release it. And here's the thing too. I'm not saying this is for sure, but this is what a lot of people speculate. I'm just giving a hypothetical. I'm just you're just asking questions. Listen. You're just asking questions. Oh, just questions. You just want to ask a question. Oh, JFK. I just want to ask a question. I think oh my gosh. You're just asking a question. I mean, hey, listen, JFK was in the past. I don't care. I don't care about the past, except I always care about the past. That's literally all I care about. But that past, I don't care about. Like American history, that really matters. I mean, who cares? I mean, it's just like the past. I mean, you're just asking questions. You're just a conspiracy theorist. On JFK used to be the left. And the left was like, oh, JFK. Now the right wing conspiracy theorists are like, let me ask about JFK. I don't want to look at JFK because if we look at JFK, we might figure out which country. And never mind. I don't want to talk about it. It's hate speech. But yeah, let me just ask a question real quick. Sorry, Ben Shapiro. Don't take over my stream. Let's just say in a hypothetical reality, which has been published in articles already, so it's not even my theory. It's been published in mainstream articles. Let's just say Epstein was working for a foreign country. Let's just say Epstein was trying to compromise American politicians for a foreign country. Let's just say America is being controlled by that country, and America is fighting that country's wars, and America is giving that country foreign aid, and essentially America is attached at the hip with that country because even the NYPD trains with that country. The NYPD essentially works for that country. Let's just say America is so intertwined with that country, every bit of war propaganda you get for that country, every bit of everything you hear on the news, everything that Trump says, everything that they've been doing overseas relates to that country that Epstein was compromising people for, and that information comes out. Do you think the United States government is going to let that information come out during a multi-front war, which is very related to that? Do you think they're basically going to be like, yeah, we're all compromised and this is what we're compromised on, but we still want to convince you that this is the right thing to do now that you know that this is a huge part of the story? They're not going to let that information come out. So, you know, that's a national security risk because our nation, that's what our nation is now. Our nation, we fight wars on behalf of things that don't really matter to us, and we get persecuted and prosecuted and slandered and called names and have the entire weight of the government weighing down on us under the global hate speech laws for one race, one religion, and one country. And I find it fascinating that Alex Jones has been fighting the globalists for 30 years, yet he seems very unconcerned with these global hate speech laws that are being passed into Brazil, Canada, UK, Germany, France, Australia, Texas, Florida, South Carolina, Arkansas, New York. You know, he just doesn't seem to care about those globalists that much, you know, because that globalist is secretly a good thing because he thinks Trump and Elon Musk are working for him now or something. So I just find that fascinating. It's like spend 30 years talking about globalism and then a global hate speech law for one race, one religion, and one country that just so happens to include George Soros, Trump's donors, you know, the guy who owns Facebook, like all of that. That doesn't seem to click with Alex Jones. He doesn't seem that concerned with it. In fact, he seems to divert away from that topic quite often in a very uncharacteristic and almost like PR team manner. Like he's obtuse on that topic. He just doesn't get it. It's weird. Someone said, I live in Arkansas. It's trash here. I pay 11.5% sales tax. That's the interesting thing about tax. Even states that don't tax that much on income tax, then they just tax on other stuff. Like everybody just has to steal their money. They're like, no income tax, but then we'll tax this. Or I don't know if there's no income tax in Arkansas, but 11.5 is psychotic. I knew a state where they did there's certain states where they do car tax. Like they tax your car every year. Dude, it's just robbery. Like, why do you need to tax someone's car? Here, let's be clear. You don't need to tax somebody's car because if most states don't tax a car and you tax a car, you're just robbing me. Oh, you have a car? Here, do this and I'll take $600 from you every year. It's robbery. You're just stealing my money because I lived in states where they don't tax cars. So it's like, you know, it's so obnoxious, dude. Taxes are such a scam. And, you know, they're always like playing this game where it's like, oh, the left, the right. I've already made my case for why I think all income taxes are communist. And Karl Marx dreamed of a day where America taxed this much. Here's the two-party system. Obama, I'm going to raise the top percent to 40%. And then Trump says, I'm going to lower it to 34. 34 is still communist. It's like, and then they say they're going to cut taxes or something for everyone who makes under 200,000. that's also a left-wing policy, because it's like, if you only tax the billionaires, I mean, I don't even know if I would agree with that. I would have to look at the legislation, but let's just say you only tax the billionaires, right? People who made over 100 million or $1 billion. It's a different story than saying over $200,000 a year. That's like mom and pop shops and basically small businesses who compete with the big guys. So it's like all the big guys know how to get tax loopholes. And then Donald Trump's going to basically just create an entire welfare state for the whole country, where he's like, if you make under $200,000 a year, you don't get taxed. So if I work I was broke in my entire 20s, right? I was broke my entire 20s. I worked my ass off. I barely had to pay taxes anyway, because when you don't make money, you don't have to pay taxes anyway. So this idea that it's like so brutal for the lower, I've done that before, and it's not that crazy, because when you make like under $40,000 a year, they basically just like hand you money. It's like you pay like $500 or something if you have any sort of write-offs or anything. And then you get money back if they take it out. But in general, it's like you start a business, you make over 200K a year, then you just start getting bamboozled. And if you take away the taxes for people under, you're basically incentivizing the same way Democrats do. And then you're screwing over anybody that makes more. It's like, dude, over $200,000 a year, especially in this economy, it's not $10 million a year or $1 million a year or $800,000 a year. You know, it's like, I don't know. When I saw them trying to do that, I was like, really? It's like the COVID check. They're like, everybody, I got a COVID check. I don't know what the threshold was for the COVID check, but they gave me one. I forget what the income was for the year, but during 2020, I definitely was under it. So, or 2019. So they give me a COVID check and they're like, here's $1,600 from President Trump. And everyone's like, based Trump checks. And I'm like, dude, the economy's going down. They just did socialism. They just did communism. They just did everything they complained about AOC and Andrew Yang doing. And Trump just did it. I was like, this is not good. And then the economy crashed and they're like, it's Biden. And then Biden gets out and then it's Trump. It's like, what a joke this whole thing is. Do I have a driver's license? Yeah, I drive. And I have a license. Let me see. All right, we'll go like 5 or 10 more minutes and then we'll keep it up. I've been doing, just letting you guys know, I've been doing like shorter reporting videos as well. I had a lot of stuff on my mind. I wanted to get it out on this one, but thanks to everybody who's subscribed to the channel, who's watching, and we've upgraded better quality for my breakdown videos. This is just my webcam, but for my breakdown videos, I use a better camera. I use like a HD camera to do like real stuff. So I'm doing a mixture of it, but I'm definitely leaning into more reports. So thank you. Am I still rapping? Yeah, I have a new song coming out soon. Someone said, I'm in New York. Taxes are wild. I'm in upstate. New York is a whole different animal, so it could be worse for me. Yeah, New York City's a lot for sure, but I'm sure you get taxed under the same state laws too. So New York is brutal. New Jersey is brutal. I know New Jersey has high income tax and high property tax. In California, they have lower property tax, but they have outlandish income tax. Some states have no income tax, but then they jack up the sales tax. I'm not sure what New York is, but I'm not super familiar with it. Instinctually, I just think it's not good. Someone said 6% state, 3% county, 2.5% city. Arkansas can go to hell. I'm very libertarian when it comes to taxes. Someone said, Anomaly, want to drive my Mustang Cobra GT 500? It's a standard. I mean, do I want to right now? Not really. If we were like in a parking lot and you had it and I trusted you and you were like, do you want to take this for a spin? Probably. But I don't know. Asking me on YouTube is a little, I don't know what to think about it. It's like, hey kid, you want to come to my candy truck? It's like, I don't know. Are you the ice cream man, or is this like a kidnap truck? I know, I'm just kidding. But like, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I look at it. It's like, it's like, Anomaly, you want me to give you a package with $20,000 in it? Like, ideally, do I want you to do that? I guess, but the whole time I would be thinking like, why is this guy doing this? Like, what is this money? Am I getting set up or something? Then they're going to say you like work for Russia or China. And then it's like, why is this guy handing? I would be a little more skeptical than that for sure. But you said you're the ice cream man. That's cool. I respect like real ice cream man. That's a cool hustle. You drive around and give people ice cream. It's a bold move. Anomaly, I've been a fan of yours for years. I'm the one who commented on a Candace live stream. I love that you made this live. Shauna, thank you so much. I mean, you got to be feeling pretty cool right now, Shauna, because I'm not trying to just boost your ego up, but it's the truth. I mean, when I saw that, not only was I grateful that Candace, said what she said about me blowing up her first video, because it's true, but also that whole David Harris thing. Like I never would have even thought about that debate, but I'm very grateful, not just for you, Shauna, but my life, like I don't have to overthink about what I'm talking about because I just go with my inspiration, what's going on, etc. And when I saw that, I just started connecting all these dots in my head. So you really did inspire this entire video, because I was like, let me go look at that debate. And I watched it and I was like, dang, that really is like, Shauna, since you don't have to do the super chat again. You could type it regular. I could see it. Is David Harris Jr. attacking Candace? How is he attacking Candace? Like, let me know. And because you were the one that said that. I don't watch David Harris Jr. So I'm not familiar with like what is he saying about Candace. I'm just curious. Let me know, because I trust you. Yeah, I mean that just shows you too. It's like a little act could go a long way. Like that inspired my whole video. I helped Candace blow up at the beginning because I liked her video. It's like one simple act of kindness or one thoughtful act can go a super long way. I mean, that just shows how interconnected we are with the internet. It's like, even if you don't have a big platform and you just watch a show, I think, doing things with good intentions, there's definitely huge impacts. I think it's pretty cool that you did that. And I'm very grateful personally. All right, let me wait for her answer, because I'm curious to see what she says. How do I fly? I just show up and say, Habibi, I'm here from the Middle East. No, I'm just kidding. That's not, but I don't know. I fly like everybody else. I have a passport. I have a driver's license. They've never asked me for a real ID though, but whether I have it or not, like on a license, I'm just being honest. It's like, I want to know what the system's about. I want to know why they're doing it now. I think people should ask questions. I'm not going to like cry every day of my life over it, but, I think people need to do journalism and ask questions, whether it's citizen journalism or not. He's doing the she's anti-Semitic, blah, blah. David Harris Jr. is doing that. So he meets with a foreign leader and now he cries hate speech. See, this is why David Harris Jr. is a fraud. And I'd be willing to have him on the show again to debate it. If David Harris Jr. was pro First Amendment, you have to be pro First Amendment for everything, not just views you agree with. Noam Chomsky used to be perfect at this. He used to say, if you only agree with free speech for those that you disagree with, or that you agree with, that's not free speech. He's like, every dictator ever agreed with speech they agree with. So the David Harris, I already know what David would say because he's low IQ, he's a phony, and he's a sellout. He'd be like, free speech is not blocking people. Free speech is not for terrorists. Free speech is not blocking classrooms. Free speech is not, immigrants don't have free speech, or people that don't have green card have free speech. And that's what these people repeat, because they want you to not see the IHRA, anti-Semitism, hate speech laws. They don't want you to read the legislation. They don't want to see what Republicans and Democrats are doing. They want you to just hear the talking points because you agree with those talking points. You might say, yeah, that's not free speech, because it's not. Blocking a classroom, if you're truly blocking a door, that's not free speech. If you're truly in a classroom taking it over and you don't have a permit, that's not free speech. I agree with that. But that's not the IHRA, anti-Semitism, hate speech laws. And I know David knows this. Like, he doesn't not know this at this point. He's been around. I was on his show in 2018. He knows all this stuff. What the IHRA, anti-Semitism, hate speech laws that they're passing into America and enforcing say, you're not allowed to say that this group controls media. You're not allowed to say that this group controls politicians. You're not allowed to say Jews killed Jesus. That's classic anti-Semitism in this text. You're not allowed to question history for this group because that's hateful and that could get you thrown in jail in Germany. And it's now, starting to be passed into America, not as a crime, but they're trying to push forward. You're not allowed to say that people of that ethnicity and religion have dual loyalty. It lays out specific things you can't say about Israel that you could say about every other country, but just not Israel. So it's like he'll say the talking points to trick the boomers into thinking that that's just what's going on. But he knows damn well that Republicans are passing hate speech laws into America. So the fact that he's calling Candace Owens, if true, anti-Semitic, he's covering for the hate speech laws. He's a total fraud. He's a total coward, and he's a total liar. He knows this. Charlie Kirk knows this. They all capitalize off not talking about this. If you talk about this stuff, you get Candace Owens. If you don't talk about this stuff, they'll bring you to meet with foreign leaders. You might get allowed to hold the binder of the Epstein files. You might get invited to Mar-a-Lago. But the second you weigh on this topic, they start calling you anti-Semitic. So it's like, be a fraud and call everybody anti-Semitic, and you get invited places. Read the actual anti-Semitism hate speech laws that are defiling our Constitution. They're anti-Christian and in many ways anti-Christ because they say the word Jesus. Why would a supposed Christian like David Harris Jr., why would he support hate speech rules being passed into America that not only match Canada, Germany, Australia, France, UK, and multiple countries that he makes fun of, but it includes the word Jesus? If a Jewish group saw Christians passing anti-Christian speech laws and it included Hashem, they would freak out. They'd be like, why are you going to police what I do and don't say about Hashem or Mashiach? But David Harris loser, David Harris fraud, David Harris coward is such a traitor, such a redcoat, that he will literally support hate speech laws that mention his Lord and Savior. The speech laws, the IHRA definition that matches Canada, that matches Australia, that's been passed by DeSantis, Trump, Kemp. They're forcing it through executive order. They're forcing it on schools. They're forcing it in the classrooms. They're forcing it onto America. They're now using it as a way to police who can and can't be a U.S. citizen, and they're using it to accuse U.S. citizens of hate speech. It includes the word Jesus. No believer of Jesus would support a hate speech law that says Jesus in it. Why are there hate speech laws in general, and why do they say Jesus? Because they're anti-Christian hate speech laws that David Harris supports because he gets rewarded with social circles and invites for not doing. So you would think somebody that fake, that cowardly, that dishonest, and that anti-American would just shut his stupid mouth and just, go around and get all the opportunities for being a sellout. But he has the nerve to call Candace anti-Semitic. Do you think David could go on Candace's show and out-debate Candace Owens? Candace Owens debating David Harris is like Tom Brady playing a kindergartner. You know what I'm saying? They're not even in the same ballpark. David Harris, he's most famous for smiling like his IQ is 30, standing on an airplane and taking a selfie with a shirt on to like trigger people. That's like his claim to fame. Candace Owens is intelligent, witty, articulate. She has deep diving takes that David has never once in his life done. Like, he's not smart, honest, or talented enough to like actually do journalism in any sort of meaningful way. Think about like 50 videos Candace has done that are like deep diving journalistic videos. Has David ever done that? No, he's the lowest tier, lowest hanging fruit brainwash artist out there. He'll say that Candace is doing hate speech while the US government is passing hate speech laws. She's doing hate speech while he's covering for the hate speech laws. Yeah, if Candace ever debated David Harris Jr., it would be like Tom Brady debating a 3-year-old on how to throw a touchdown. So that's what these people do, because they can't out-debate you. They can't outperform you. They'll just accuse you of hate speech while the government passes hate speech laws. Imagine if David Harris Jr. was saying they're flooding our border, which he does, which is fine because they are. And the Biden administration was passing anti-xenophobic hate speech laws to say that it's xenophobic officially from U.S. government definition standards to say that Mexicans are flooding the border. And then instead of saying it with David, I just said, you know what? David is a xenophobe. He's just being a xenophobe. That's what he's doing by calling Candace Owens anti-Semitic. Candace is banned from entering Australia. She's banned from a country because of hate speech. Those same hate speech laws that she violated in Australia are being passed into America, the exact same definition. They just can't push it as hard because we have a First Amendment, but they're trying to wipe their behind with it as much as possible. That's what he's doing. It's shocking to me that he doesn't just do what he does and not talk about Candace, but it's like he's accusing her of hate speech while he's covering for the hate speech laws. It's unreal. I used to think that these people don't know what they're doing because obviously some people are very low IQ, but once you learn enough, there's massive incentive not to. They're just politicians. They're doing it for the same reason Ted Cruz does what he does, and Rick Scott does what he does, and Lindsey Graham does what he does. Like, they're playing the same game as a politician. when I played that clip at the beginning, I think that's like one of the most revealing ones. I play a clip and I say, David, how come Trump doesn't get that much pushback when he puts Lindsey Graham on a stage? Yeah, they boo him a little bit, but then they cheer 5 seconds later. I'm like, why would Trump platform Lindsey Graham? He's horrible. And he goes, well, Lindsey Graham has his own stage. He's in Congress. And I go, yeah, but there's a lot of congressmen that have their own stage, but Trump doesn't give them a bigger stage. Like, yes, Lindsey Graham has a stage. Adam Schiff has a stage, but Trump puts Lindsey Graham on his stage and sells him to his audience. And Trump doesn't do that to Adam Schiff. And he's like, well, who would put Adam Schiff on a stage? And I'm like, who would put Lindsey Graham is just as bad as Adam Schiff, potentially worse because he's fake opposition. I mean, they're equivalently horrific. It's just Lindsey Graham plays our side in order to get an agenda for not us. And then he defaults after realizing it made no sense what he was saying. He goes, well, I'm not in Congress. I'm not in Congress, so it's above, we don't know what's going on in Congress because I'm not there. So according to that logic, if you don't know what's in Congress because you're not in Congress, then you must never talk about Congress, right? He's a guy who never talks about Congress or congressmen or politicians because he's not in Congress, so it's above him to talk about Congress. Yet if you look at what he does, he's talked about congressmen hundreds of times. It's just when it comes to Trump, all of a sudden now he doesn't it's so obvious. It's such an easy thing to point out that it makes no sense. It's the same thing that RFK Jr. said when they asked him. RFK Jr. was running for president. He was talking about the Ukraine war. He was talking about America. He was talking about free speech. He was talking about the pharmaceutical industry. He was talking about literally every topic under the sun. And never once did RFK Jr. say, I'm not a politician. I'm not sure. He said, I do know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm running to be a politician, because I could be a good politician. So I'm going to tell you what I think about every aspect of politics, right? Then RFK Jr. got asked by Dave Smith, and Dave Smith said, do you think the Israel lobby has too much power over America? He froze for 15 seconds and he said, I'm not a politician. I don't know because I'm not a politician. It's like an IQ test. Okay, you're not a politician, yet you're running for office. So have you ever once said, I'm not a politician? Hey, what do you think about the Ukraine war? I'm not a politician. What do you think about Big Pharma? I'm not a politician. Do you think Big Pharma lobbying has too much power in America? I'm not a politician. What do you think of Biden? I'm not a politician. He's never once said that on any topic. Of course, if you're running for office, why would you say I'm not a politician? What you would say is, I want to be a politician because I'm qualified and I know all about politics. You don't say, I don't know because I'm not a politician. Why is it that they all have the same talking points? It's like RFK knows everything about everything, but when it comes to a lobby, he can't talk about it because he's not a politician. David Harris talks about Congress all the time, but when it comes to, a certain congressman on stage with Trump, he says, I'm not in Congress, so I don't want to talk about Congress. Yet he talks about Congress all the time. I don't understand who falls for this. You understand what I'm saying? And the reason I'm even making this video, besides the Candace one, it's annoying enough that you're a sellout, you're stupid, and you push bad content. That's one thing, right? It's another thing now to be accusing U.S. citizens of hate speech while the government's passing hate speech laws, right? This should be clear to any influencer. The government is passing hate speech laws for one race, one religion, and one foreign country. And you're calling someone hateful and saying that they're spewing hate speech because you're using the same word that they're passing into law? It's equivalent to a Republican saying you're an anti-vaxxer when you say you don't want to get the vaccine. It's the same thing. And these people need to be called out because they're as anti-American as it gets. You're accusing fellow partymen of hate speech. I've never once accused somebody of hate speech because I don't need to use that word in order to prove them wrong. I can articulate what I'm saying without saying you're hateful. I don't use the word racist, xenophobic, sexist, anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, climate change. All of these words mean I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to accuse you of being hateful or crazy without having to say why you're hateful or crazy. David is not smart or honest enough to out-debate Candace Owens on any topic, let alone just this topic. You think he can act like he's David Harris would be lucky to shine Candace Owens' shoes. That would be a better service than anything he's done with his platform. Yet he's going to sit there and accuse her of hate speech on a topic that he's dishonorable and completely fake on. The hubris of these people is fascinating to me. It's like, what is she being? Oh, she's just hates. She's just so hateful. If he sat down with her for 30 minutes, he would look like a moron. she would literally just explain the truth without being hateful, and he would just be like, that's anti-Semitism. It's like, it's annoying, dude. It's annoying. And there's other influencers too. I don't like to talk about other people because I'm not into drama. I'd rather just talk to them. But I know other influencers that know about the IHRA anti-Semitism laws. How do I know? Because I brought it up to him in 2019. I've hung out with some people in person. David, I've only met one time at an event and we chatted for a little bit, but I know other people better. I've talked to them for days straight. Like I've had conversations. I've driven in their car and talked to them. And I've mentioned the IHRA anti-Semitism hate speech laws in 2019. And I know that they're providing cover. Like, what do you really do? I'm not trying to be dramatic on a personal level. And I like to be a real person. You know what I'm saying? Everything's not politics to me. I like to honor my friendships, but at the same time, it's like, dude, I know, and I know that you know that I know that like, you know that I know, and I know you're lying, and you know that I know that you're lying, but you just keep doing it. And some people are doing it with an ethnic bias. They have an ethnic bias where they are that ethnicity, and they're totally fine with hate speech laws in America being passed on a global scale and in the United States for their ethnicity. They think they're special. They think they're a special class. They deserve special laws and special everything. That's why they're supporting them. Other people, it's other reasons they're supporting them. Some people are being paid. Some people are afraid. Some people gain access because of it. Other people have a religious bias. Other people think that their pastor told them to sell out their First Amendment for a speech law that includes Jesus in it, literally sell out their own Bible for a foreign country. It doesn't even make sense. Everybody does it for every reason, but it's like, I know certain people that I know that they know. So for the most part, they don't really bother me because it's like, they know that there's nothing to say to me. They just mind their own business and keep it moving, which is fine. But it's frustrating because it's like, how long are you going to be fake opposition? How long are you going to lie to people? How long are you going to ignore this topic and just push propaganda to trick people from knowing this? Because if you really believed in the First Amendment, you'd say this too. I know you don't. All right, let's read 2 more comments and we'll cut it off. Someone said, anomaly, Douglas Murray says you can't speak of such things because you've never been to Israel. Well, 2 things. I don't talk about Israel that often. I talk about American speech laws. So let me just be clear. I'm not constantly weighing in on what Israel's doing with their foreign policy. Very rarely do I talk about that. I'm talking about the American hate speech laws being passed for Israel. So I'm not a war analyst right now. I do occasionally mention it, but I'm not Dave Smith. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not hating on Dave Smith, but we're different people. We say different things. We believe I'm not Dave Smith. So I don't talk about Israel as much as Dave Smith does from an Israel-Palestine perspective. He has every right to, and I don't think he needs to visit Israel to talk about it. But if you listen to what I'm talking about 99% of the time, it's the anti-Semitism hate speech laws being passed into the United States of America against my U.S. Constitution. That's what I'm talking about. With that being said, Douglas Murray he doesn't even believe what he says, because I've heard him say that some authors cover topics without ever have been to places better than people who have been there. So Douglas Murray doesn't even believe what he said to Dave Smith. As far as that, here's the question you have to ask too. It's like, what is he doing in those? He's visited Israel. What is he doing? He's gotten awards. He's gotten awards for pushing their narrative. So it's like, China's a different example. I understand because they're not our ally, but imagine if I flew to China 100 times and got China awards for pushing Chinese propaganda. Then do I come to America and say, you can't talk about China if you haven't been there? It's like, but you've been there to do what they want. That doesn't make you an expert. It means you're essentially just working on their side of this topic. I would respect somebody who's been there. Sure, if you've been to Israel, Palestine, and checked it out, yeah, that gives you credibility. But at the same time, it's like, if somebody is just 100% pro-Palestine or 100% pro-Israel, I'd rather listen to somebody with nuance that's honest about the situation, that isn't compromised by either side. So, this idea that you have to have been there, I don't believe that that's true. But To each their own. To be honest, I didn't even watch that debate because I already knew it was going to bother me. It was going to bother me for this reason. Douglas Murray is annoying. He's one of the fathers of neocon propaganda. He wrote a book about neocons. Trump is promoting the neocon author because Trump is also a neocon and he works for the same people. So it's like, that's already annoying. And he's got a British accent and he acts smooth. So some people get fooled by him. But also with Dave Smith, like I've heard Dave talk before. It's not, I like Dave. I've had him on the show. I think he's getting a lot of backlash that is understandable because he's so popular, but I don't agree with it all. I like Dave more than Doug Murray, but I just don't feel like listening to the debate because it's like, you know, I feel like it's like Doug Murray being annoying, Dave kind of trying to do, like, I don't know. You understand what I'm saying? I've already heard it and it's just going to annoy me. I'd rather listen to something else. I get the gist of it. I know that it's going to not be a pleasurable listen. And I know everything I need to know based on just seeing how people are reacting. All the worst neocons and warhawks in the world think Doug Murray won. All the Zionists think Doug Murray won. And then it seems like everybody else thinks Dave Smith won. I even saw some comments that said, I'm a big Doug Murray fan, but he came off condescending. I don't like how he acted. I even saw Gad Saad, who's big pro-Israel guy, say that he thought Doug Murray did a bad job. I don't care. It's just like, I already know what Dave says, and it's not that everyone has to be like me, but like I would have handled it differently. So I don't feel like hearing Joe Rogan and Dave versus Douglas Murray. I'd rather listen to something else. No disrespect to Dave. I like Dave. I don't know. I'm not spending 3 hours listening to that. All right, let's end on a good note. Okay, there's a super chat. We'll end on this note. Someone said it's almost biblical how small hats are using media to turn white nations into third world countries and people cheer for it. Has everyone gone mad? Said the super chat. Well, I don't know. If you're gonna make me say stuff like that, you got to give more than $5. You know, that's not. You're gonna get my whole channel taken down under the IHRA speech laws. But anyway, sorry. You're saying it's biblical. I would say there's probably some Bible verses that definitely talk about, I mean, the Bible talks about everything. So I guess you could find parallels to that in the Bible. I know there's two verses in Revelation that are being censored on social media. So there's I'm trying to think of which, I think it's 2:9 or something. I'm not really sure, but there's a Bible verse that talks about the synagogue of Satan. And I don't know exactly what it says, to be honest. But I know roughly, I just don't want to butcher it. It's like, there are those who say they are, but are not. I'll make them of the synagogue of Satan to know that I love you too. Something along those lines. That's being censored on Twitter. So under the guise of anti-Semitism, they're already censoring Bible verses on Twitter. They're already including Bible scriptures in hate speech laws. Like, this is all very concerning. You're right. Here's another 5. All right. Thanks. I'm not trying to get money out of you, but you know, I like to explain things in my own way. You have every right to say what you want, and I get what you're saying, but it's like, I don't know. You're kind of like getting me in unnecessary trouble and framing it in the way you want to frame it. But I get it. I'm not mad at you, and I'm not trying to stop you from saying what you want. And I do read the super chats, but I feel like sometimes, I don't know. I just say things the way I like to say them, and then other people have their own terminology. But it is what it is. It's the same thing with like Dave. I like Dave, and I think he's a great debater, and I think it's long overdue for him to get attention. Like, he's an interesting guy, but we're just different people. So it's like, when I hear the way he explains things and stuff, I'm like, I get it. It's just not my angle. It's just not my angle. So everyone has their own way of doing it. That's one thing that annoyed me and still does annoy me is like, okay, in the world of information, right? There's all sorts of different people, and in a really sleazy debating / I would say propaganda tactic is being like, you're like them because he said that, sort of. And it's like, let's just say there's a topic. I don't care what Daryl Cooper says. I don't care what Joe Rogan says. I don't care what James Lindsay says or Elise Stefanik says or whoever. It's like, the truth is the truth. So everyone's always trying to frame it like, look what he tweeted, look what he did, look what he did. He's siding with this and that. Outside of all of those things, like, what is real? What is true? I'll end on this note. I saw this guy I follow. His name is Actual Justice Warrior. I think his name is Sean. He does a YouTube channel. He's got a really great YouTube channel. He's doing really well. He seems like a nice guy. He definitely leans on the pro-Israel side, and I would say that's fine because I don't care. But what I would say is I feel like he's very dishonest on that topic. He's a very honest guy, but he's very dishonest on that topic. So he was talking about people questioning World War II. Like, I guess there's a bunch of people that are saying that Winston Churchill sucked, right? Like I've heard that a bunch recently. Winston Churchill was a villain of World War II. He sucked, and everybody's getting mad because obviously that challenges the narrative that we've been told that he was awesome because he defeated the bad guys. And I've heard this for other parts of history too. I grew up. Abe Lincoln was my favorite president. I've always loved Abe Lincoln because I was told he was honest and he was a great guy. Recently, I've heard that Abe Lincoln was one of the worst presidents of all time and he was a liar. So I don't get mad, and I don't think it's anti-American to say that, and I'm not sure whether it's true or not. But in general, I wouldn't say you're trying to like ruin America by saying Abe Lincoln sucked. Even though you're challenging what I believe and what I've grown up to know, I'm not going to frame it that way. I'm just going to look into it. So the Actual Justice Warrior Sean guy was like, everybody who's saying that Winston Churchill was a bad guy is trying to delegitimize the West. That's complete false framing. This is the real framing. And then I'm going to say what I believe. But in general, whether you believe this side or this side, this is what's really going on. The West has currently delegitimized itself. We've delegitimized our nation with open borders and insane immigration policy, with horrible foreign policy. Everybody knows George Bush lied, and including Trump and his administration's admitting it now. So it's like Europe is delegitimizing itself. UK is falling apart. Germany's falling apart to some extent. France. We always complain about what's happening. That's why people are questioning history. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying they're right. But what I am saying is it doesn't, just because if you question Abe Lincoln or you question the Civil War or you question the Civil Rights Act because you're looking at how the policy is laid out, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to delegitimize your own country. You hate America if you question the Civil War. A lot of people question the Civil War, including Ron Paul, because he says that we were lied to about it, and he says it wasn't over slavery, it was over taxes. I'm not saying that's true. But it doesn't mean you're anti-American if you come to a different conclusion, because the winners write history and they always make themselves seem like the good guys. So in general, it's like the only reason that people are questioning history at all, like Winston Churchill, etc., is because the West is falling apart. You could look at almost all of our allies, America, Canada, most of Europe. It's all headed in the wrong direction, and everyone knows it is. So people like Tucker Carlson and Daryl Cooper start asking the question, if Churchill was so great, why did he allow all this to happen? Like, why is this happening after the war? Some would say it's not Churchill's fault. Some would say that it's the further leader's fault. I'm not here to take a stance right this second. I'm just being honest as an analyst. Excuse me. That's why people are doing it. People who are questioning Winston Churchill are not necessarily anti-America. That's a complete fake framing that it just so happens that all the people that are so pro-Zionist that they have to lie about other topics are saying. So it's like, the only way someone could question history is if they hate America. What are you talking about? I question George Bush. I question Bill Clinton. I question Ronald Reagan. I question everything. I question the wars. I question the Iraq war. That's what the propagandists used to say. And they're still the propagandists. They're just sneakier now. So it's like, you can't disagree with George Bush unless you hate America. It's the same logic. That's not true. It doesn't make you love America because you buy everything they've ever told you. Everything they've ever told us led us to this point, and nobody thinks this is the right point we should be at. So it's okay to question some things. So it's like, that's the framing that they're doing. As far as was, Winston Churchill, the arch villain of World War II, I get that why that would upset people, especially when we're living under the world order after World War II. In most of the West, you get arrested or in trouble for questioning history. We live under World War II order where you literally get thrown in prison for questioning World War II in Germany and other countries. In Argentina, you could get criminally charged for questioning World War II. So it's like all the people that don't want people to question it, it's like, I get why you wouldn't want that, but I'm a little more concerned with the fact that people are getting thrown in jail for it. With that being said, it's like, I don't know enough about Winston Churchill to understand who he really was. Like, from what I've read and what I've seen, it's like, I tend to think that he was overrated, the same way I think a lot of American politicians were overrated. Like, do I have to think that, the guy who did the New Deal, who was it, Roosevelt or something? It's like, do I have to think he was a good president? I don't, but do I have to think the president who oversaw the creation of the Federal Reserve, he was awesome, and anybody who thinks otherwise is anti-American? It's like, no, a lot of people made mistakes, including people in Germany. And it's like, I mean, people in obviously in Germany. I mean, I'm saying like UK. It's like, so we worked with Stalin in World War II. It's like, I think Stalin's horrible. I can't think multiple people are bad. I have to believe that just because I think that the leader in Germany is bad and the leader in Russia's bad, so I just have to assume that the leader in Great Britain is good. It's the same thing they tell us now. It's like, it's Trump's the good guy and Putin's the bad guy, and Zelensky's the bad guy or he's the good guy. I don't have to believe everything. If I want to, I could believe that Putin's overrated, Zelensky is a puppet, and Trump is a phony. I don't know. I don't have a huge stance on Putin, to be honest. Like, I think Zelensky's a puppet. I think Trump's a puppet. Putin very well may be a puppet too. I don't really look into him that much. I just kind of focus on the war to an extent of like how it started and NATO, etc. But I don't really talk about that much. So I'm not really praising him or bashing him. I'm more just like, unsure. But I don't have to believe anything. Like the fact that people are like, if you don't believe this, you're an anti-American. It's such BS, dude. Like, and I know what Tucker's saying too. Tucker's like, look at the UK, it's falling apart. Winston Churchill like led to this. And some people say, no, he didn't. Maybe Winston Churchill didn't lead to that, right? There's a possibility that Winston Churchill has nothing to do with the fall of Great Britain. If that's your case, then you could state your case. Here's why Winston Churchill has nothing to do with the fall of Great Britain, and here's why he was a great leader. Here's personally what I think. I think that Winston Churchill does have something to do with the downfall of Great Britain. He's not the only person, but I believe at a certain point, like there becomes a path and a slippery slope and you walk down it. Like I think the Federal Reserve was the slippery slope to our inflation. It wasn't the be all end all, but it's like at that point, we were on a slope to the day we're on now. I do believe that Winston Churchill made some decisions that led to how Great Britain is now. He's not Sadiq Khan. He's not, whoever, Margaret Thatcher. And, there's other people involved. It's like, I'm sure people after Margaret Thatcher made even bigger mistakes or some mistakes, but I'm not trying to get shamed by people into saying I'm not allowed to think that. I think Ronald Reagan was an actor. He was an actor. So it's like, I don't think Reagan was that good of a president. And I think Reagan caved. Does that make me anti-American? Because I don't love Ronald Reagan as much as older people. Like he's a nice guy. I get why he was charming. He was friendly. He seemed pretty honest, but he caved to the pharmaceutical lobby. He caved to the mass immigration lobby. And I think that helped ruin America. I think two of Reagan's worst decisions were some of the worst decisions in modern history. I think they lied about Nixon. I think that they wanted to oust him for other motives, and Watergate was just the cover, and they started recording him. Does that make me anti-American? I don't know. So I just wanted to talk about that. These are all things that I was thinking about, as the week was going on. And I don't like doing a bunch of live streams that are this long because it's unnecessary and it's not really a good business model, to be honest, or even like easy to listen to for people. But now I would say 70 to 80% of the videos that I do are shorter. So this is a great cycle. I'll do these once in a while when I'm inspired, and then I'll do the short informational videos way more often. And they're doing really well. My YouTube numbers are up. People are liking it. Better quality, better background, better camera for the other stuff. So thank you guys for supporting. I appreciate it. And I will be working hard this year and trying to figure out a way to get you guys the best content and do more of this stuff. So like I said in my last live stream, I'm working on a way to be able to do way more. And the way to do that would be work with people who can help me edit. So I'm trying to figure out the right business model to allow me to do more, because at this current pace, I have to work pretty slow. But I'm trying to figure out a way, maybe work with ethical sponsors, maybe create value of myself that people want to, take part in. But I have to figure it out, because the more that I could generate per each video, then I could essentially do like 7 quality videos a week. Nothing stopping me like in my own head. The only thing that's like, I I have the ability, the information, and the willpower to do like 7, 8 great journalistic videos a week. The only thing stopping me is I don't have the team right now to facilitate that much output. So I'm trying to figure out on the right business model to do that, because it wouldn't take away from the quality. It wouldn't take away from the ethics. It would only be just as good, if not better, than what I'm doing now. So I'm working on it. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. Have a good day. God bless you. And thank you, Shauna. Thank you so much. I mean, that was awesome. I hope you have a good week and feel very accomplished, because you should. You're awesome. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk. For $5 a month, you can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm